This podcast is part of the Everyday Heroes Podcast Network, the network for first responders and those who support them.
Disclaimer. All views expressed on What Makes Us Fire are solely those of the person or persons giving them. What Makes Us Fire does not represent or claim to represent any particular city or fire department, and therefore make the claim that all views and standpoints are affiliated with What Makes Us Fire and with What Makes Us Fire only. Any mention of certain fire departments or cities within the interviews are solely for informational and opinion-based dialogue. In short, if you have a problem with what's published, just say something about it and don't be a Richard.
What is up, What Makes Us Fire family? Thank you for joining us today on the show. My name is Josh, your host of the What Makes Us Fire podcast, founder of the What Makes Us Fire nonprofit foundation. Y'all, I have an amazing guest on the show today, a artist who I looked up to, the band that he is the lead singer of, I looked up to when I was a young kid. Their music helped get me through a lot of dark days, helped me get through when I was just feeling shitty and sad. And the fact that this gentleman came on to the show to talk about mental health and what he's doing to show support and how he shows support for the veterans and first responders in the community is huge. His name is Chris, lead singer of the band TRAPT. Yes, that's right, Chris, lead singer of the band TRAPT. Now, me and him are going to sit down, we're going to talk, we're going to get his history, we're going to get his backstory, we're going to talk a little bit about mental health and how he's learned and how he's grown from his last album last year called Shadow Work into what he's working into now. Y'all, big, huge news. At the end of this episode, TRAPT is using the What Makes Us Fire podcast to premiere a new song called Above It All. That music you're hearing in the background right now, that is actually the instrumental to this song. Not only are they allowing us to premiere, it is now the What Makes Us Fire bump music, and I cannot be more thankful. I'm going to let Chris do a lot of the talking. He's an artist, he's a friend, and yeah, I kind of fangirled a little bit. Not going to lie. Anyway, What Makes Us Fire family, please help me welcome my good friend Chris, lead singer of the band TRAPT.
All right, man. Chris, how are you doing, brother? Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, like I said earlier before I actually hit the record button, I like to let people know how I got you onto the show, how you actually found What Makes Us Fire. And if anybody doesn't know who this man is right now, right here, it's okay. You will, trust me. This man here, his name's Chris. He is the lead singer of a well-known band that has been around for 20 plus years now. Yeah, a band that actually helped me get through a lot of dark days, and thank God for social media because it allowed me to reach out to him and he reached back and he agreed to be on the What Makes Us Fire podcast because he loves what we're about in talking about mental health and getting our first responders and civil service members back on the right track. Chris, lead singer of the band TRAPT, is here with us on the What Makes Us Fire podcast. Brother, again, thank you for jumping on the show.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
I basically told everybody how I got you on the show. I saw that a good friend of mine, Adam Fiegel, he kind of fangirled a little bit. He made a video fangirling when you followed him back on TikTok, the social media platform where we actually met. And I was like, holy crap, that's awesome. And to be 100% honest with you, Chris, I thought it was just like you know how they have those fan pages? You know, like somebody else will run it and it's just like a fan page. I honestly thought it was just a fan page.
Yeah, you know, that's it sucks. TikTok is, you know, I mean, we've reached out to the music label people and they're in LA, you know, so these are like literally people who used to work at record labels, you know.
Right.
And, you know, TikTok's just like, you know, you don't qualify or whatever, and we can tell you what the qualifications are to get verified. It's like, dude, like, yeah, I'm just trying to spend money here advertising, you know, and, you know, you're not going to, you know, make it give you the same level of courtesy that you'd give Edwin McCain or something, you know, like just an artist like that. no one's even heard before. It's just purely political.
Oh, it
Purely
is.
like, this is what happens to you if you dare to speak up against the entertainment media complex's narrative, which is basically the same broader media narrative.
Right. Well, that goes with really anything, right? If you speak out against an idea that they may or may not have, whether it's a popular idea or not, the fact that you're speaking out against it is already putting you in the doghouse. So, but the fact is, I saw you follow Fiegel. Fiegel freaked out, and then Adam. I was like, "Holy shit!" Because I have his personal number. I was like, "Man, dude, really? Was that really Trap?" He goes, "Yeah, man, go check him out. Checked him out, followed you, saw one of your videos. I commented and like, hey man, thanks for your music. Helped me got through a lot of dark days in the past. And you said thank you. And then I decided to quote unquote shoot my shot in trying to get you onto the podcast. Asked you onto the podcast. You said, yeah, actually that's a pretty cool idea. Let's do it. Which is, it's cool because not a lot of people with, and we'll call it what it is, not a lot of people with your clout, with your notoriety, with your popularity, whatever you want to call it, would actually interact with fans the way you do, right?
Well, it's crazy that Chris Gomez, like a bunch of dudes that Fiegel knows, and that network, like that Jam and Lulu guy, just a bunch of people who have the same mission as you do, and I was seeing that a ton, just before I even really pushed to see what kind of follower, what kind of how many fans we really had on TikTok, and that community. Like I kept seeing videos from that community, and it's just crazy that our paths ended up crossing like that. So it must be that people are obviously into the same things, get shown the same things, and that's what creates these communities.
Yeah, and Adam, when he goes live a lot, and when he goes live, he likes to play his music from his past. So, Trap has definitely been played. Incubus has been played on his lives. He plays a lot of the music that we grew up with, and that's why I think he kind of freaked out when you followed him back, because here's this band that definitely did a lot for him and for me, that played music that got us through some dark days. Like, you were writing music that spoke to a deeper level even 20 plus years ago. And now, and we're going to get into all this. Now you're getting some new music out there that is speaking on a whole nother level. It's like your music actually matured with you and the times, and you can feel it. You can hear it. There's a couple of songs that you put some little teasers out, and just the minute long teaser and the song that we're going to be talking about later on, like those, you can hear the maturity and the growth within all that, and it's like, god damn, you did not change. Your Trap, the band, the music did not change, and what it does for somebody trying to
that's what inside. It's always going to have that focus. Like, the focus is don't be trapped by the demons that you got inside you, the painful emotions that you don't want to feel, all the things that keep you from growing, right, are the things that we've always talked about with Trapped,
Yeah, always. And that's what I freaking loved about it. But I reached out to you and you said, yes, here we are. Me, you, and Adam are going to talk about actually trying to figure out a good way to release one of your songs, which I think is an amazing idea on what you want to do with that. I do want to ask, though, what possessed you, or what has possessed you to get a little bit more personal with some of the fans that are actually reaching out to you, some of these creators like Adam and myself and some others that you're actually reaching back and talking to them? What's possessed you to do that? Not a lot of.
Yeah, I mean, on Facebook, I was commenting on life and social things that were going on and crazy stuff that I have an opinion about on Facebook since 2014. So I've been having that same kind of rapport with people on TikTok for many years, and then 2020, I simply just pushed back against what the entertainment community was pushing on everybody. They were all united. 100% of them. I was like the only guy who stood up for cops when they were just getting beat up left and right. Everyone was just trashing them. Republicans too. Everybody was trashing them, man. And I've never felt like, I'm better than anybody else. Like, even if you're some troll, I'll still talk to you. I'm not too good to talk to anybody, or discuss ideas or any of that. So I wanted the trap page to be a place where people felt comfortable expressing ideas, and then obviously Facebook kicked me off for a really harmless meme, and it sucks that they have that kind of power.
Well, any meme is harmless. Words are harmless in itself. Words are harmless. It's the meaning we give them and the ideas that people give them that make them harmful. So
yeah, well, the thing that Facebook does when they deplatform someone, they imply something. It's like, yeah, you have the free speech to deplatform, but you're saying something about that group you're deplatforming, especially when you say it's for hate speech.
Right.
So really, you get to decide what groups are hate groups, and then tell the world that. I don't know if that's going to be able to be the case for forever.
I don't think it will be. I think it's actually changing. It's changing slowly, but it is changing. We're definitely with people like you, people that have a little bit of notoriety, speaking up out and against, and then finding people like myself and Adam there to back you up when you need it.
Awesome.
It's changing. It's changing slowly, but it is changing. And
it's funny. It's just like the music industry. It's like if you say anything, it goes against the the official narrative, official media narrative. Then they pull all support for you, or and if you if you don't have that support, then obviously you don't have any chains that bind you. But then they say, oh, you're not relevant. So it's like, oh, you have to have a hit song on the radio right now to have a political opinion. It's like, what the hell does that have to do with anything? So it's so funny. Like, the music industry will try to discredit you as a musician, to discredit your opinion on things that they force the vast majority of musicians and artists to say to their fans.
That is a whole nother world that I have no idea about. And
I was right in the middle of it,
Yeah, no. And if that's the kind of shit that's happening, man, I can only imagine. I mean, what if there's some artists that actually don't agree with it, but their label's just like, do it or you're broke? And it's like,
a lot of them are just opportunistic. They're like, oh, I'll raise my hand and say what's not brave to say when everybody is saying the same thing.
Right. Well, the idea is it's not brave to say, but literally everybody else is saying it. And actually, the brave thing to say is what's not being said. Right. That goes with a lot of stuff that we talk about here on the podcast, is that a lot of people think that not speaking up when it comes to your mental health, that's the brave thing, right? Because you're not showing that you're weak. You're not showing your sadness, and you're not, well, actually what you're doing is you're doing what everybody else does.
Yeah. You're really just avoiding.
Yeah.
You're avoiding talking about it because you don't want to deal with it yourself.
Right.
That's what ends up happening.
Yeah.
Once you start talking about it with people, you have to deal with it.
Exactly. You start falling in line with what everybody else is doing by hiding it. But if you open up, start the conversation, start talking about it, you're actually fighting against the norm. You're fighting against the grain. You're fighting against the stigma. And to fight, you have to have strength. That's the way it is. Starting the conversation, yeah, not easy, but not a lot of people can do it. If it was easy, everybody would.
Well, everybody wants to be perceived as strong, and people perceive certain emotions with weakness, and I guess it's because, if you're being led in a crazy situation, you don't want your leader to lose it, and fall to their knees and cry. But sometimes even the leader needs to do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Chris, we did go off on a little bit of a bunny trail, and I don't mind bunny trails. I fucking love them. But I'd like to go through a little bit of your past, your history, man. Who you are, where'd you come from, what was family life for you like growing up, stuff like that. And the reason being is because I want people to kind of, and like I told you before we started recording, I want to break it down back to the human level. Instead of Chris, lead singer of Trap, let's just talk about when Chris was just Chris.
All right. Where do you want me to start?
Where were you born, man? What part of the country were you born?
I was born in San Francisco Children's Hospital. Was in the Bay Area, like the South Bay, about 45 minutes south of that, until 6, and then a couple years on the East Coast, and then back to the West Coast, and basically that until until college. I was went to UC Santa Barbara at 18, and I started Trapped when I was 16, and a year into it, we made an EP, and a bunch of labels started hitting us up, and we decided to move to LA and try to make it. And we got a record deal, and Headstrong was the perfect first song for us, and the rest is history.
That was definitely the perfect first song for you guys, because it was the perfect song for me going through high school. Literally, I had people sending me the song saying, "This is you." So, well, man, you definitely blasted through. That was a quick story, bro. Like literally less than a minute. And I have a feeling, Chris, your life is not that dull.
Yeah, no, there's a little more, I'm sure.
Yeah. What was family life growing up? I mean, you're born in the West Coast, right? Until you're about.
Yeah, I mean, I had a pretty good upbringing. Middle class. Dad was an engineer. Mom became an engineer too, and they both worked hard, and I saw two people working hard, and just basically proud of themselves and what they know they can accomplish, and go do it. So I saw people do that. I saw them grow apart too. I saw what probably you shouldn't do in relationships, and probably what you should do. But that was just on the surface. Obviously years later, you deal with all the reasons why you might be, tough to have a relationship with.
No, absolutely.
Once you figure that out, you're like, it humbles you, and then you become a better person. But I feel like that doesn't really hit you till your 30s.
You're fucking right about that.
You don't know, like your 20s, you're like, I didn't do anything wrong.
No.
And in the 30s, you're like, I did everything wrong.
Absolutely. That's a fucking movie. Do you have any siblings growing up?
Yeah, little brother. He's awesome. He's like 4 years younger than me. Little less than 4 years. So he's a musician. He's amazing with like automotive stuff. The guy can fix a bus. He'll find like a piece of junk that just got a shell basically and rebuild it, sell it for 5 times what or 10 times what he got it for. He's a great musician too. So it's an awesome dude. Huh?
What was it like for you having to move from the West Coast to the East Coast? You moved to the East Coast when you were fairly young.
Yeah, I love that. The East Coast kids are so much more rambunctious. Right. And the West Coast kids are like obviously more like surfer chill, So I came over there from the East Coast with like all headstrong ADHD attitude and crazy energy, and like kids didn't know what to do with it at first, So, but a few years into it, I made some good friends, and still have a bunch of them from high school.
When you moved back to LA, back to the West Coast, was that during high school years when you moved back?
No, that was like 9.
Oh, dang. So you were only on the East Coast for like 3 years.
Edison, New Jersey.
Oh, okay. So you weren't there for too long then. And so you went back to the West Coast. You go back to the West Coast. What was high school life going? You started your band at 16, right? And
I was I was a pretty like an all county linebacker, and I rowed the rowing season to stay strong in the off season. I played basketball and baseball too, but football was where I could knock the crap out of people. That was my favorite thing. But I played since I was like 9 years old. I remember like 18 or whatever, 19, like the first year I wasn't playing football. I like got these weird headaches, like I usually would like have, done enough drills and games by then to like satisfy whatever crunch I needed to do. But, yeah, it was weird for like a year or two.
You almost said,
around football season time, it would have been,
almost like football withdrawal.
Yeah, man, totally.
Yeah,
I remember like we all cried at our semifinals, knowing that was the last game we're ever going to play. I remember that we were all little babies, like driving home. We lost like 6-12. It was so heartbreaking.
Oh no!
Our quarterback got his freaking collarbone broken, like right before halftime. One of those situations.
Damn. Yeah, you know what? It's a story for a movie, maybe. I don't know. That's me bullshitting. Anyway, okay, so I don't want to pry too much. It sounds like you're blasting through your story just a little bit, and it's understandable. I get it. There's probably some things you don't want to talk about, probably some things you don't want to relive, probably some things that
probably can't think of it. Unless I'm like put on the spot about something, I can't really access
those thoughts sometimes. Right.
Like if someone's like, "Hey, tell me about something broad," I'll probably tell the most boring, simple story. But if someone's like, "Hey, tell me about why this is the case," I'll use every example I've ever lived through to prove the case.
All right. Well, if you're open to that, you did mention that you watched your parents grow apart. Mm-hmm. How old were you when you were starting to realize that they were growing apart, and what did that do to you? What did that do to you? Like,
well, I was 12 or so.
Okay.
When they were fighting a lot, and I could tell that they weren't too happy with each other. And so when my mom picked me up from like a football practice and was like, "Hey, my dad your dad and I are gonna like separate and maybe take some time apart," I kind of knew that was coming, and my mom's just like, "Can you tell your brother about it?" So I did, and he was 8, and I just told him, "Look, regardless of what happens between mom and dad, I'll make sure that you don't have to go anywhere but here. You'll stay here. Me and you will stay here. We don't have to go back and forth and all that crazy stuff, and we'll just let them deal with their stuff and not be angry at each other, but I'll promise you that,
Mm-hmm.
And, that was good until my mom, like, it was many years later, 4 years later or so. Yeah, and she went to the East Coast, and she was like, "So when you guys got to come with me?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm a sophomore in high school. I can't come with you." And then my brother's like, "All right, I will." It was supposed to be for a year and a half, but my mom let him go back home after 9 months because it was just like he had no friends there, But my mom's very like family oriented, like she needs somebody right there. It was like a work thing,
Right.
So I had to like kind of break that promise to him, but he forgave me.
What did that do to you as a sophomore in high school, realizing that because like for me, my parents they divorced and separated when I was young, 6, 7 years old, and I had to see the tumultuous relationship break down on that end. On top of that, I had something happen to me when I was a young kid. So, I'm here I am trying to deal with what happened to me as a young kid. Nobody knows about it. And watching my parents divorce, it really fucked with my psyche. So much so that I actually have not started working on it until just this past year and a half. So,
wow.
Yeah, wow. It's been a rough ride. So, and the reason why I like to ask people is like, how did that make them feel? Like, what do you think? How do you think it helped you either grow and or held you back mentally, growing up with yourself, growing up within yourself?
It's so crazy, man. I feel like I've been this, like, I've had this voice in my head since I was like 5, the earliest I can remember it. This voice of like, what do I do? What should I do here or there? Or what should I think about this situation or whatever, And it's like this internal dialogue that's like going to make sense of things, And I feel like it's like that part of me has not changed since I was 5. I've learned new things, but the concept's always like, I'm going to figure out life, we'll figure it out, and yeah, I mean, I just remember at 12, not, I even used my mom, like, I got caught stealing some alcohol and vodka or something for a dance or something. And my mom's like, is this because I'm deciding to date now and you're mad at that? And I was not even at all. I just wanted to look cool and bring the bottle to the party after the dance,
Right.
And I was such an asshole. And I was like, yeah. Like, because it was like almost like a get a jail free card, and she just like got so sad about that. And I remember I told her about that like just a few years ago. Like, I still feel bad that I took your get out of jail card free. I just didn't know. I just figured like, oh yeah, you just put it in my lap, So,
right.
And I apologized finally, like just a few years ago. I was like, I feel so bad for that. Like, I let you feel guilty for something that was not the case. Little asshole, 15, 16-year-old.
Well, let's be honest. Somebody gives you a get out of jail free card, you're going to cover your own ass.
It's hard.
That's what we do when we're young. Yeah, that's what we do when we're young. We're going to cover our own ass. You mean you're giving me an out?
Too bad about it.
So it definitely affected you in a way that you understood the life as you knew it was changing. You took on
things changed. I also saw two people in love for at least a good chunk of time. Right. So when I was, a little kid, they, for the most part, they were a loving couple. So, I got to see two people respect each other, and they also respected each other throughout the divorce and how they divorced, very respectful of how they talked about the other person, So I saw a pretty clean, two mature adults, like dealing with their problems, in as mature way as I've seen. Yeah,
a lot of people would say you're probably very lucky in that. I would even say you're probably very lucky in that, because I was not privy to that. I was not privy to that at all.
No, I can imagine that the more selfish the parent is, the more sensitive, and the more easily slighted, the more they want to go to war.
Yeah, and that's the fucking truth. So you're going through high school, and you come back. At some point, music starts taking over. You get this little music bug. I haven't actually heard you talk about music at all in this whole story. And which is actually it's really fucking interesting, right? Because here we are, we're talking to a lead singer of a band who started his own band, and he hasn't mentioned it once in his process of growing up, of moving back and forth, of his parents divorcing. He hasn't mentioned that he used music to cope. He hasn't mentioned that he was using music to kind of calm down or to let aggression out. You haven't mentioned music once. It's interesting to me. It's a little something that I kind of picked up on. I was like, that's very interesting. So now I'm wondering, where did this bug? When did it bite you? What happened?
You know what? Music was obviously a way to express myself and show people what I can do. Why does anyone do anything? Why does anyone excel? Because they want to be. They want to be good at their craft because it's fun to do, and the better you are at it, the more fun it is. But also because you want to be recognized for the things that you work hard at. Why else would you do it in front of people? So that was a drive, I think. Wanting to just do something cool that no one else was doing. That was probably the initial alert. Because how good are you at your instrument at 12 or 13? Not very good. So you're doing it because you want to emulate what you are looking up to, all the bands that are your favorite bands. And so that was the initial reason to get into it. And then being kind of good at it, like writing songs that you feel are original and that other people agree, to a pretty good local extent, like in 15, 16, like getting people to go to your shows at a club, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. That's all we cared about at 16 was going and opening a show, opening up for Papa Roach or something, and they were 20 and we were 16,
Right.
And accomplish that. And then you just keep trying to accomplish goals. That's been my whole life, as a student or, or as a football player or whatever, is like my parents were very, very like into me and my brother excelling and doing well. I mean, you get more praise if you did something cool, right?
Right.
I don't want to make them sound like narcissistic parents that only love you if you do good, but it's like, come on. I mean, if you why else would you work hard? Because your parents go, that was great. Or, it's like if your parents never congratulate you for anything, that you're probably going to be an angry adult.
You're
Even
going
if
to
you
be
are
a very
high
sad
achieving,
person.
they never built into you.
Absolutely. No,
No.
you'll be a very sad person. You'll be somebody that feels like no matter how much hard work you put into something, you never really achieved anything, right?
And you'll treat other people that way. And
exactly.
Being around people like that is exhausting because it's like nothing's good enough.
Yeah. It's interesting that the way you started off is that you picked up an instrument and started playing, and you wanted to show people how good you can get, right? And I remember I saw you, if I remember correctly, I saw you guys, I think you guys played in a Vans Warped Tour, if I remember correctly. Did you play in a Vans Warped Tour? I think you did a Vans Warped Tour.
No, we never did that. Never played
Vans Warped Tour.
That. No.
I saw you somewhere.
It's like that only band that like had a hit song that played on Warped Tour, like there was like a hit song around that time was like Alien Ant Farm, like
Alien Ant Farm.
One band, I think.
Yellow Card did pretty good.
Yeah, but like in the genre of like, that I was in,
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Like a radio. I mean, like rock radio.
Yeah. I got you. Now I do know I have seen you in the Houston area at a place called Scout Bar. You guys.
Yeah, man, that place badass.
Yeah, I've seen you guys play there once or twice, and you guys have always been a band that I followed for a long time. But I love the story about how it's wanting to be better. Like you're constantly trying to be better, constantly working very hard and there is nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. I want everybody is like, well, you have to be humble in your craft. You have to be humble in your craft. Yes, you have to be humble in your craft, but there is nothing wrong with accepting and wanting recognition for something you worked hard on.
Just go to YouTube and look up like Jay-Z quotes. And it's like, if you don't think that you're the best at what you do, then you'll
why the hell
never
are you
be the
doing
best
it?
at what you do,
Exactly. And
like you got to pick your little niche and then be the best at it.
Exactly. And there's nothing wrong with wanting that acceptance and praise for you did something great. You worked your ass off. There's nothing wrong with accepting and wanting some type of recognition.
Hey, everybody wants attention. It's just you don't want negative attention because some people just got so little attention across the course of their lives that they're fine with the negative kind, and that's when you're going to screw your life up. Yeah.
Right. It's that whole bad publicity is still publicity. It's like no. If you want publicity, get the right type of publicity. You don't want you don't want to be tied to the thing that's not you.
People will probably chuckle at like the last year of metal websites just saying whatever, spinning whatever I say into something they can defame my character with, and it's like all that did was result in like literally a million more monthly listeners right now across just like Apple and YouTube and Spotify than last year. A million more human beings listening per month.
Right.
So,
they're listening to what you have to say now because
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're listening to Headstrong, listen to, other songs of ours. They're just like, who knows if they even know anything that was talked about last year or any of the controversy or anything, maybe they're just people who like music, like to work out to music or whatever, or liked what I said here and there. But, it's definitely nothing that I said has hurt my career in any way. It's like that you see all that major league sports down 40%, 50%, by their woke thing that they're pushing on everybody. It's like, that didn't happen to me. It didn't happen to Trap.
Right.
The opposite happened.
Right. If anything,
no matter what people
say, a
say,
little bit more publicity.
Yeah, more people know about the band and know that Trap made Headstrong than they ever did before. So people couldn't even tie the band name with the song because Warner Brothers pushed one album, and then I wasn't like a subservient easily moldable person. So they were like, we're going to work with artists that do what we said. They wanted me to, the front cover of our first album, they wanted me to be behind prison bars, like grabbing the bars like I'm trapped by myself, like in this prison cell without the band or anything. And I'm like, no, that's stupid,
Right.
And from then on, they hated me. But Headstrong was already kind of breaking at that time. So,
and I'm gonna push forward a little bit, man. I appreciate you sharing a little bit of your path with your parents. Sharing the divorce and what you were exposed to and everything, and being the older brother that kind of looked out for that younger brother growing up. I get that sometimes some of those stories that especially if we don't have permission to share parts of that story when other people are involved, kind of makes it a little bit uncomfortable to talk about. Like me right now, I'm going through a divorce, but I'm not going to speak badly or anything about my ex-spouse because one, I don't have permission, and two, it's just my opinion. You're not going to get her side of the story, so it's not really fair for me to tell you my side of the story without having you the opportunity to share her side of the story, right? Because there's always three stories to every truth: her side or their side, your side, and then the actual truth in the middle somewhere.
And then that is the only truth right there.
Right. So what I try to do is I'll share my opinion, but I try to leave it without other people involved. But in saying all that, I appreciate you sharing a little bit of your past and your history, how you kind of got into the music. I want to push forward a little bit because obviously I've told you what Makes Us Fire is about. We're about mental health. We're about killing the stigma that is talking about mental health. And I've noticed it recently. You have definitely become more and more outspoken when it comes to being there for veterans and first responders and sharing what's becoming friends with the demons, I think is the term you use. Becoming friends with the demons in your head, right? Don't allow them to control you. You control them. And
let your demons work for you instead of against you because they're powerful. So if you can align if you can figure out why your demons are angry, then you can work on making them not angry anymore. That's the whole point, is that people don't want to look at why they're truly hurt and why they're truly angry, because that might open up a can of worms that they don't want to open up, but you're never going to heal unless you do it.
Correct. Well, I guess my question to you is when did this start for you? When did this become like a mission that you've been pushing?
So 2018, I just dated this woman who, had a pretty tough, childhood kind of stuff and, things I was hearing and just overall, it made me think a lot about psychology in general and myself, some of the crazy things that maybe I'm guilty of doing or whatever, or thinking, I would say that, sometimes you meet people and they become a mirror, and the things that you think that they're doing wrong or that they're guilty of, well, you're only that, you only care that much or feel this strongly about it because you also see that in yourself. You also hate that in yourself. So it's easy to hate someone else for what you can't accept that you do. Hate someone else for it, project that onto someone else. But, that's anything you feel strongly about. You have to take a step back and go, why do I feel so strongly about this? And your brain will come up with all these excuses as to why you feel a certain way or whatever. But, you got to go deep and go to that emotional part in you. And I definitely did that to try to understand this person. I had to understand me, and, I got into Carl Jung and, a lot of the, Freud stuff, and just really the emotional center of who you are is basically who you were from 0 to 5, 0, 2, 3, 4, 5. If anything happened in those first 5 years that was stunting, like, you didn't go through something at the right age you needed to go through, but you're going to keep repeating that in adult relationships, and that's going to screw you up because you're not going to know exactly why you're mad at the person or what's going on. It's just such an old thing, but it's like you just see the patterns. I had the same pattern over and over again in relationships. And I think because of this person, I definitely went deep enough to figure out the root of all of it, and then realize that your pain is just knowledge. It's information. So if you avoid pain, that your body's trying to tell you knowledge, trying to tell you information, and you ignore that at your own peril. And so it's like, I want to teach people that, look, your pain is your friend. That's like your buddy's trying to tell you the truth, and it hurts, but you gotta listen to it. But most people cannot accept the truth behind that pain. Most people, 90-some% of people, because everybody has an issue from their childhood or from something that was traumatic. Mm-hmm. Everybody, because you're going to get hurt when you're a child. No parent's going to be perfect, So, and that's your basis for relationships in the future, So I think a lot of people's issues are relationship issues,
Now, I get what you're saying when it comes to relationship issues when you're young, right? So I alluded to something earlier. Something happened to me when I was a child during my parents' divorce, and I have shared it, and I don't mind sharing it with you, but it is going to be very vague. I was walking home from school. I was abducted. I was molested by a male and female couple. They didn't like how I responded to what they were doing because for some reason I just completely shut down. No yelling, no screaming, no fighting. Right? Yeah, no yelling, no screaming, no fighting, no nothing. I just and apparently
they wanted you to be fearful or something?
I guess so, because they got their,
sick people, man.
They tossed me out of the car saying something to the effect of it's fucking broken, there's something wrong with him, something like that. So they tossed me out of the car. Luckily, I knew where I was. I was able to walk home. But in my head, I knew my parents were going through this tumultuous divorce. So in my head, I was just like, I better not say anything because I don't want mom or dad to be upset any more than they already are. Yeah. So I actually kept it in until I was 18 years old. It was the first time I actually started openly talking about it. And it wasn't until just about a year ago that I actually started dealing with how it had literally fucked me up in my relationships and my self-worth throughout my life. So, I get that whole, what happens to you when you're younger can really fuck you up later on down the road if you don't allow that pain
because
a
part of you will need something from that person, and it will be impossible for you to communicate what you need because it's something that you needed when you didn't really have a way to communicate.
Right.
You didn't really know how you would say it,
For me, it was the feeling of being discarded, not necessarily abandonment, because to me, abandonment means it starts off with somebody caring about you or somebody showing that they believe you believe they care about you, and then they just leave. Right. For me, it was just being completely discarded, used and discarded. That's what I was afraid of.
Did that adult couple make you feel like they were your friends and that they had your best interest and all that?
That's the thing. To be honest,
they tried to trick you.
I don't remember exactly how it happened. I remember, and that's something that I'm going through with therapy and trying to figure out all those things. Now, I did some therapy called EMDR, which is a fairly new therapy.
EMDR, man.
Yeah, so it's a fairly new therapy. I tried that, done it twice. The first session, you want to talk about ugly crying. You want to talk about being in a lot of emotional pain and ugly crying. I don't think I've ever cried that hard over that experience before in my life. And at 35 years old, I can't believe I waited almost 30 years to actually start dealing with it.
But that's the only way. It's through it. You have to go through.
Yes, exactly.
You have to go towards your fear.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I say on the show. You can't just get over it, quote unquote, get over it, because then the wall's still going to be there if you ever backtrack. What you have to do is you have to break through the wall. You have to break down the wall. That way, if you do go back, you know what to do, and that obstacle is not going to be there anymore. Because
it's almost like with traumatic stuff, you have to relive that experience with that conscious part of your mind as like an adult that's holding like the emotional part of you's hand, and going like, hey, all right, let's watch this. Let's make sense of this. And you have to go through the whole thing again and then align it with that conscious part of your mind. And then, and only then can you get rid of all the bad emotional feelings that's associated with that.
Yeah. And that's definitely what EMDR, that's the whole point of it, right? That's what EMDR is for. For anybody that's not familiar with EMDR, it's the idea is that a lot of our memories and a lot of our storage happens during REM sleep. And that's when we can actually access a lot of those memories, is when we're in
Yeah, that's
REM
crazy,
sleep,
man.
right? And so what they do is they have you start talking about what you do remember. And then they start mimicking the REM, either by vibrations in two hands, having you follow, not hypnotism, but having you follow a light, going back and forth, basically just to replicate REM eye movement, rapid eye
Yep.
movement. And it's weird because then you start remembering things that you didn't remember before. And
Yep.
it literally opens up your eyes to the whole experience all over again. And so EMDR, for anybody that is contemplating it, be very aware that it is opening up a door for you to relive that experience. But that is the point, is to relive the experience and associate new emotions and feelings with that experience, because now you're either more mature, you're either more aware, you're more cognitive of what's going on.
Well, they did studies on that. So they had it, and it was about. I read a study. It was with women, right? That had been, sexually abused very young,
Mm-hmm.
and they all had very bad anxiety and depression, and their anxiety would spiral into depression a lot. And so it was almost as if and the closer that their conscious mind got to seeing that memory, the more they would be defensive, the more they would be panicked, like I don't want to see that. It's like their own brain was keeping them from being conscious of what happened, because
Correct.
it was protecting them from the pain that's going to come from that. But
Correct.
the whole thing is you have to convince that patient that, hey, you need this pain. You need to go through that pain. And the ones that sat in it and felt that pain the longest had the best results as far as lower anxiety, lower depression, and for longer time periods. So it's like the more you relive that trauma, the more your conscious mind makes sense of it, the better you're going to feel tomorrow.
Right. You're able, and that's why we always tell people, it's okay to not be okay. It's just not okay to stay there. And
just you got to feel that pain. It's like people have to realize that pain is good. It's your friend. It's knowledge. It gives you insights that you will not have if you don't feel it.
I love what you said, that the pain is trying to teach you something. It's trying to tell you something. Hey, sit with this a little bit. Analyze it. Find out why this is happening. Find out what it is that's making you feel that way. I need you to do this so we don't go through this experience again. Because if you don't, something's going to happen. You're going to trigger, and it's going to be even worse the next time. Yeah. God forbid.
Totally. Yeah, man. It's like that. You just got to try to convince people to see the value in digging up painful memories, because a lot of people go that there's no value in that. No one should do that. Keep it to yourself. There are probably more people than not think that way. And it's more of an old school way of thinking. Don't burden the world with your issues, But it's like no one's burdened anything. Everyone's just getting it off their chest. And if you can do that in a group setting, it's even better,
Yeah, I hate that word, burden.
Believe it or not, it's helping people, man. The more you talk about this stuff.
The top sentence used by people with depression is, "I don't want to burden anybody else," right? And that's why they keep it hidden. And I always tell them, I was just like, one, are you a mind reader? Well, no. Well, then how the hell do you know you're going to be burdening anybody else, for one? Two, why are you making that decision for those people? Why are you making that decision for them? You are literally not allowing them to make the decision on whether or not you are a burden or not.
There's people like that, and parents like that, that parents that said, don't feel anything because you might make me have to feel something.
Right. And it kind of sucks because on their end, it was a coping and mechanism for them. So they don't want to see their kid hurt. So
it's a way to be numb,
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to ask you a personal question, Chris. Did you, or have you gone through what we talked about? Were you exposed to this depression? Have you gone through depression? And then if you have, how did you kind of get through it? I have a feeling so your understanding of what's going on when it comes to depression, anxiety, PTSD, and talking to you, not only, through the emails and through text and through the phone call we had yesterday and stuff like that, I can tell there's something about you that it's more than just book study that allows you to understand this, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
And
I know for a fact that I'm somebody with ADHD, so you know, um, I have a lot of dopamine receptors I have to fill, or I'm going to be anxious.
Mhm.
And so you can do that constructively, or you can do it, destructively. And I've done it both ways. But the artists usually are artists because they're trying to reach for something. They're trying to better themselves, or But underlying it all is like your serotonin levels, which is basically just how you feel about yourself. It's like if you're somebody who's accomplished a lot, but you think you've only reached 10% of your pinnacle, you probably won't be that happy of a person. But if you're somebody who's like felt like you've accomplished a lot of your life, you're just gonna be like, wow, I've really done a lot of my life. You're gonna feel that way. It's like it's impossible to lie to yourself about how you feel about yourself. A lot of people do, for sure, but deep down, you know how you feel personally about you. You know, and that could be you, or it could be your parents and their disapproval talking. Or your girlfriend or your wife's disapproval or whatever. But I know that it's just basically well-being. Everybody wakes up, wants to feel good, but not in an artificial way, because that should make you feel guilty, by just getting a cheap, boost of instant gratification, right? So I think that that's the point. How do we feel good? And there's a lot of people out there that do not feel good today. They don't feel good yesterday, and they probably won't feel good tomorrow. So, I figured out how to be my own adult. Like there's a child in me that feels things. The adult doesn't feel anything. It just does what is in the best interest of the child. That's how I kind of look at myself. It's two figures, And so the most stuff that happened to you was when you didn't have that adult in your head. That's when the most stuff happened to you, and you made up all your defense mechanisms. Way before you have a conscious person, adult in your head. So I figured that out, and I didn't figure that out until just a few years ago. And I just want as many people to know, anxiety is that, like depression is when you truly, realize something and it makes you feel like crap, or you realize you lost somebody, or you realize that the reason why you lost somebody or whatever. And that doesn't feel good, but at least now you know the truth and you can build yourself back up, So, and the truth always hurts, but that's the only way to grow, So
when did you
I've
realize
really
that
figured
for
that
yourself?
out. So I want
You
to
said
try
you
to teach
realized.
that.
You said you figured that out a couple years ago, and I guess you're putting a little bit of the process with your past relationship in 2018,
Yeah, man.
right? So that relationship definitely revealed a lot to you about who you are.
Yeah,
I
I saw the pattern for that. That was so clear, and I also saw some of my worst parts in her. And I think those truths, realizing those truths, as painful as it could be, maybe maybe a different person, total ego death,
Ego death. Dude.
I probably had like 2 or 3 of those in my life, man.
Me and you could have I can edit this part out if you want. DMT. Yay or nay?
No, I love talking about this stuff, man. The more that people listen and apply it to their own lives, the better.
So DMT, yay or nay?
I've tried it, and all it just seemed like there was like a ton of, like light posts, or it was just like everything that multiplied. But I haven't touched that or the ayahuasca or any of that kind of stuff. But pretty much, all the other hallucinogenics, and it's crazy because it's like that, like a lot of this stuff, it makes it so that voice in your head, that voice just forgets everything. So that's why a lot of people get scared, because they don't that voice in there controlling everything. They have to just
Right.
like go with the flow of whatever feelings are coming at you, whatever emotion you might be feeling, which is what it like a newborn baby or a toddler has to, So like it just teaches you, or it forces you to look at things in a way that you haven't been able to before.
It opens your eyes, and when I say opens your eyes, it's more than just the ones on your face. It opens up doorways in the eyes in your brain to have you see things in a way that probably better and more healthier for you to see them. This is a conversation I want to have with you off recording, and I want to get your opinions on because I've been reading a lot about how psychedelics can help with PTSD, anxiety, and depression, and bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and all that other stuff. And there's a lot of good research coming out. However, it's still kind of a little bit of a taboo topic to talk about because, well, psychedelics can, if not used properly, can actually make the situation worse, right? So a lot of it depends on the person being open to the treatment, and if they're scared, if they go into it scared, if they go into it apathetic, or they go into it skeptical, it could actually ruin what it's meant to do. Based on my research and everything else. But I would really like to talk to you about that off recording. Maybe later on down the road we can record again on our ideas on that.
Yeah, man.
So
I'm talking about that.
Yeah, so do I. So you're going through this relationship, you're starting to realize some stuff about yourself, and you're starting to open up your mind and your heart and the idea about who you truly are, right? About who and what you've been exposed to and how you've been as an adult, right? How you grew up. When you started realizing those things, what was it that you would say was holding you back the most? What part of that past do you think was it that was holding you back the most? Well, you said you started noticing a pattern. You started noticing something not so great about yourself, right? And I can tell you, for me,
the thing I realized that I was allowing my worth to be based on the way someone's treating me, versus just like what is me, what's my backbone, and all that. And so you have to figure out, why did that happen? Why did this person take on any higher level of importance than they now than versus last month or something, and it's because they did something that triggered something. So it took me like a year to figure out what got triggered, and yeah, it was deep stuff, and a lot of stuff, the whole abandonment, everybody has that, same fear of abandonment because everybody wants relationships, and depending on how those first few went in your life, that's going to have like a real strong effect on how you view relationships in the future, so you've got to unlearn that stuff, so I was also, being into Carl Jung and all that stuff, where it's like he's talking about like you don't really get to live until you're 35 because it takes 35 years to put together the first 35 years, or to put together the first 10 or something,
Mm-hmm.
And then you can go, okay, now I see the world differently. I can live the rest of my life. But those first 35 years, you don't know. You don't know who you are because you haven't gone there yet, or you don't even have the tools to go there yet.
And I love what you said, because it's exactly what I was going to say. I learned that because of what happened to me, I was allowing other people's perception of me or other people's opinion of me be that measuring stick for my own self-worth, right? If I started to feel like they were pulling away, but even if it wasn't actually them pulling away, if I started to feel like they were, because they weren't doing what I felt like they needed to do to show me that I am worth them, right? I know that all sounds crazy.
At the end of the day, they were hurting you, right?
Yeah, they were hurting me.
Your feelings were being hurt, right?
That my feelings were being hurt, but the thing is that they were misconstrued ideas of my feelings. They were falling.
So you were seeing reality in a way that was not reality?
Reality, exactly. I was seeing reality based off what happened to me. So if they started even an inkling of pulling away or saying, well, I don't want to deal with you, then I would like self-sabotage.
Did you ever think it was their fault that those people found you and took you? Your parents' fault?
No.
Never once you said this is someone's fault?
Never once did I believe it was somebody else's fault. I always blame myself. Like I should have been more aware. I should have known better. I should have fought. I should have done this. I should have done that. I don't know why I went not like I literally, it was like my brain went to blank. And to hear what they were doing to me and trying and laughing at me as they're doing these things to me.
And you didn't have the right response. That's so creepy.
I didn't have the response they were looking for. They were wanting me to fight. They were wanting me to scream. I'm guessing. They were wanting me to be afraid. They were wanting me to cry. I don't know. They were wanting me to try to get away. Me, I literally just went.
You just froze, right? Paralyzed.
Complete numbness. Nothing. And when they threw me out of the car,
play dead.
Backpack at me. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it was that. They didn't like that response. They said, this kid's broken. Threw him out. I went home and didn't know what the fuck. Like, I don't know what the hell just happened. And from that point on, I mean, I couldn't even be called. I couldn't, like, as a joke, how some friends sometimes will go, man, that's gay. Or don't be gay.
Yeah.
It was it meant to be a joke, not to be derogatory in any way, shape, or form, just to be a joke. Well, even if they were joking, I snapped. It was a trigger for me. I snapped. I got so many fights with friends because I had to prove to myself what happened to me didn't mean I was gay. Right?
Well, it has to be such a violation of your person. Like, it just a complete violation of your environment, of your person, of everything. That it's just like people have no respect for anything,
right?
At the very deepest levels.
And I tied all that, me being, I did grow up homophobic. I will be 100% admitted to that. I grew up homophobic, but I wasn't. It took me a while to realize that it was those sick people, those sick individuals, are the ones that fucked me up, and it's not everybody else in the world that fucked me up. And it took me a long time to realize that. That's because you were left to
your own devices to make sense of it all.
Right, exactly. And it's not until just this past year that I'm starting to realize all that stuff now, right? And it wasn't fair to a lot of people in my life growing up because I would self-sabotage. As soon as I started feeling like something was not going my way or something was going to happen to where I was going to feel that sense of, being discarded or abandonment, whatever, I would self-sabotage on purpose. I would do things on purpose to get them to dislike me or to leave me, because then at least I know.
Because then you have the power.
Yes,
you're the one who hurt yourself. They didn't hurt you.
Exactly.
It's like those people who will insult themselves first. They'll insult themselves before anyone else can insult me.
Right. But it's still not healthy, right? Because that means I still have the same idea about myself. Right. So I never really dealt with it. Instead, I was just like, you know what? I already feel this shitty about myself anyway. Let me just make this person feel it too. And then I will be validated in my feelings. I'm still a shitty person. I'm still not worth nothing.
Oh yeah. And you probably people had to prove themselves as to how much did they care about what you went through, and and like what kind of reaction should they have and all that. And do they have, are they even having the right reaction, all that stuff.
Right. And, and I share this, man, all of it I share on my social media. The reason being is because, even as a firefighter, I do deal with a lot of job stress on top of the life stress that I'm still trying to deal with. And I'm sure it's very similar for somebody that's going through what you went through. Here you are, you're an entertainer. You still have a job to do. You still have things that you have to take care of. You still have a house that you got to pay for. You still have life in the life things that come to any normal person's way of life. You still have to provide. Finances are still a thing. Relationships are still a thing. Waking up, finding that self-worth, finding that drive is still a thing for anybody. And that's why I like sharing the story, because it's like, when you break it all down, no matter what the job is, life itself can be that catalyst that drives you to have depression, to have anxiety, to have something could happen outside of a job, have you have PTSD. Now, Civil service members. Are they exposed to a little bit more that can cause them to have PTSD? Yes. Numbers speaking, yes. But they are literally putting themselves in that line of fire on purpose. So we understand that that's a possibility. Does that mean that when we clock out and we go home, that everything's hunky-dory at home and we are not going to be exposed to some type of tragedy or, some type of stress at home that's not going to cause that? No. Why? Because we're human beings first.
Yeah.
We're human beings first. Doesn't matter what you do, you're a human being first. And human beings, all of us experience those same type of emotions, same type of stressors, right?
Yeah,
so
man.
for you, a few years ago, you find out and you're starting to have a lot of this self-realization. You're starting to realize, man, there's some stuff I got to work on within myself. What did you do and what did you use that for? Because, man, I'm hearing some of your new songs, man. And, obviously I understand that sometimes one song can take years to write. I get that. But you're pumping out a few of these new songs. I don't know how long you've been working on them, so I'm not going to assume anything. However, I can tell when I said that there's maturity in what I'm hearing from you in the band, there's maturity in the lyrics, there's maturity in the feeling that I'm getting in these new songs that you're putting out. It's exactly what it means. I feel like there's a maturity here. There's the song you sent me, Above It All, right? I hear that there's when I listen to that song, I'm listening to it and I'm like, this dude learned something about himself.
Definitely.
Chris is writing about, he's singing about, and he's telling a story about learning something about himself. Yes, it's a generalized song and it's trying to get people to understand like, hey, you can do this, you can get up, but you wouldn't have written that song had you not gone through something similar on your own.
Yeah, totally. Just, it's like all the things that, yeah, I think that 90% of what people are getting angry about on the internet, and like on social media and all that stuff, their finger pointing and all that. I bet the real thing that they're angry about, it's, that's the real thing being triggered by whatever's going on or whatever they're mad at today, or whatever the media tells them to be mad at, something that they're not even conscious of, that happened a long time before. Like really angry people who are like just real quick to just, blow up. Those people had something happen that they're probably not aware of, and it's like, I'm just happy that I'm now the type of person who's really going to go towards that, which I don't understand or which I'm kind of afraid of, and just realize that life is just a set of boundaries you got to figure out how to get across or get over. And that's what makes life worth living, So to let any one of these little things that I feel are trivial compared to the real deep issues that we all should be going through, you just got to be above it all. And as long as you're doing what you need to do for you, and that is, surviving and not only surviving, but like surviving on your terms, then you're doing what you need to do, and to not get bogged down in all these little stupid fights, is probably one of the best things that I learned over the last year. You have to go through it a bunch to really learn that.
Yeah. And I would suggest now the Recall Rush and What Makes Fire family have your back 110%, Chris. So if anybody starts fucking with you on social media, by all means, let us know. We'll take care of it. However, I've learned the best thing is just, don't even acknowledge him. Don't even acknowledge him. Like, I wouldn't even say hi. Wouldn't even like their comment. Just leave the comment there. That's it. Because at the end, what you're doing is you're giving them what they wanted anyway. If you start acknowledging.
Sure. I mean, you can definitely see that there's some people like that. And then if you can calm those people down, but you have to know if they have the intelligence to even have a real conversation with you. But some of these people who are like influencers on TikTok, are actually have some intelligence behind them, but they're just pushing sensationalism and, look, we're going to cancel with mob mentality next, because it's like they feel like they have some kind of power, it's like those people you can have breakthroughs with those people, and so I'm totally into having a conversation with anybody who's willing to have that conversation. But if you're not, if you're looking for just negative attention because maybe your mom and dad didn't pay enough attention to you, and the only way you would get attention is when you would throw things at them when they're taking a nap, or annoy them in some way and have your dad chase you around the house. Like those are today's trolls as adults, So you can tell real quick where if somebody's just hopeless and you should just ignore them, and maybe they're worth having a conversation. Maybe you can bridge the gap there,
I like that you have that mentality. Not a lot of people do. A lot of people would be like me and be like, look, if you're going to show any type of negativity, I'm just going to ignore you.
It's like, it's just how much can you handle? Because if it's truly toxic to you, if you get so angry that you gotta get them back with the same vitriol that they give you, which I've been guilty of, but I've definitely overcome that, and I'm definitely above that now. And it's just a framing of mind, because a lot of people get angry at others because they feel they have the right to. They have the audacity to scream and yell and let everyone know how they feel about something, because sometimes that's warranted, but most of the time it's not. Nobody cares about your personal problems that you're so angry about. Like, there's other things that are deeper and more important than you and your world, So, I don't know. I just, the ones that you can show others that it's possible, I like to do that when I can,
And I respect that about you. And maybe that's something that actually I should take on as well. If I find somebody that's type of kind of hating on me or something, be like, hey, I'd love to talk to you about this one-on-one if you'd love to talk to me.
What is your goal here?
What's your goal here? What's your goal here? Do you want to talk about this? Are you trying to prove a point? I would love to hear your reasoning and have a discussion about it. But if you're just screaming to be heard, that's different than
you got to be a calm person that can take another person's idea and maybe it completely conflicts with what you think and have zero emotional problem with it. There's not one thing that someone else believes, other than if you like believe that you should be able to hurt people based on their race or something, or like,
right.
Like the stuff that we've all decided is horrible stuff. I don't think there's a human being in America that's living a lifestyle that angers me, other than the ones that are yelling at everyone for their lifestyle. Those are the only people that piss me off,
Right. And it goes back to what I said at the beginning when we first started talking. It's like, isn't it crazy how we allow words to dictate how we feel?
Because we let those words define our self-worth. It's like if you let your belief system define your self-worth and somebody goes, well, I don't agree with your belief system, you'll feel personally, physically attacked.
Yeah.
Ridiculous, right?
Yeah, the crazy thing is about that is that if we actually sat back and process, we can realize, like, hold on. I'm giving meaning to their words. Why am I giving it this meaning? Is it beneficial for me? Is it not beneficial for me? Can I let this go?
Don't give them the power.
Yeah. Can I let the 5 minutes it's going to take for me to be a keyboard warrior and tell them my idea and show them how upset I am? Can I let that 5 minutes go and just be at peace with who I am and allow them to think about me the way they are thinking about me? That's on them. The way they think about me, that's on them. And if they think that way about me, fine. But if I know my worth, I don't have to worry about anybody else's thought or idea about it. It doesn't do anything for me. Unless
I think you can make great points by engaging with those trolls. You can make great points to the other people who want to learn something by engaging with some of those trolls, But you can pick and choose. When it's worth listening, when you can get somewhere.
We're I'm sorry. I know we scrolled off again. I have ADHD too, by the way. So, I was diagnosed with severe depression, anxiety, PTSD, and ADHD because who doesn't like to hyper focus on the depression, anxiety, and PTSD than somebody with ADHD?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, the good thing is you'll get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, right?
Right.
So, I'm on medication. I am on, desloratadine, which is like Prestige for the depression, propranolol for my anxiety attacks, and I am on Vyvanse for my ADHD. I also go to therapy. I also see a psychiatrist, and I also do the podcast and social media and sharing my story because believe it or not, sharing my story, what I go through every day, how I'm feeling. If you go through my videos, you'll see me laughing, you'll see me sad, you'll see me content, you'll see me known, you'll see me, like I've invited you a couple of my lives, and if you ever jump in on any of the lives, you might see me on a day where I am just falling, where I'm having a depressive episode. And the reason why I go live when I'm doing that is because it helps me hold myself accountable. It helps me say, like, look, I'm telling you all it's okay to share when you're sad. It's okay to talk about when you're sad. Well, I can only say it so much. I have to be about it too. Right?
Yeah,
I can't just preach it. So if I'm sad and I'm like, you know what? I need somebody to talk to. I don't have anybody to talk to right now. I'm going to go live. I'm going to talk to What Makes Us Fire. I'm going to talk to the people that I'm trying to help. Let them know that, look, I'm showing myself in this state. It's okay for you to show yourself in this state too, because I'm not going to judge you. Here I am doing the same exact thing I want you to do because it's healthy. It's healthier than
yeah, man. You show the vulnerability first, and then you lead that way.
But vulnerability, if you can call it a vulnerability, and I'm going to challenge your thinking here.
A vulnerability means you're open to attack. You're going to say some stuff and then say, hey, have your opinion about it. I'm open to attack.
Anything you put online, whether it's happy, good, bad, indifferent, is vulnerability.
Yeah, man.
But I think when it comes to showing that emotion, that one emotion that people tie weakness to, sadness, right? When showing that, you're being vulnerable not only to open yourself to attack, but you're being vulnerable to yourself, right? Because it's a part of you that you struggle with yourself, allowing yourself to do. Right?
Oh, totally, always.
So you're being vulnerable to the voices in your head saying, why are you acting like this? Why are you being like this?
Yeah, most people just close it all up.
Man up.
Close it all up.
Right? That term, man up.
Yep.
But I'm saying all this because, and I asked if you've gone through this, and you did say you have, and you are going through that. Would you say right now that your music and what you're trying to do, when it comes to being a little bit more of an advocate for mental health and for speaking up and just being open about your emotions, would you say because you're going through it and you went through it, that's kind of the reason why you're being more an advocate for it?
Yeah, dude, I made a choice to be this way, and I, like the girl I'm with now, I consider love of my life. She's amazing. Right when I met her, I was like, tell me what you're most ashamed of, something that happened to you or you did or whatever. Tell me what you're, and if you give me some bullshit answer, then I'll know you're fake. But if you give me something that's real, and obviously I'll go first, then I can trust that you want to go this route of like being real, and just letting the walls just go, and like I made that choice before, like it's how I'm going to present, what I'm trying to do if I meet someone I'm interested, and we've been living that, ever since, like calling each other out when we're being selfish children, because that's usually what ends relationships, is that you didn't get something as a child. You think subconsciously you're going to get it from this person. That's the biggest allure you had to this person. A lot of times those relationships are entanglements that aren't meant to be real relationships, but meant to be learned from, and a stepping stone so that you meet the right person, and you treat the right person well when you meet them, and so like that, like as a 20-year-old, I would have never kept the girl I'm with now. No way. So, I made a choice to be real and be allow myself to be that emotional child that we all are. You know, the emotional part of us is the child. That's it. There's nobody is more emotionally mature than a 5-year-old. You know, that like a 5-year-old emotionally is like as mature as you get. It's like, don't act like a 2-year-old. You know, don't act like a 6-month-old that's just raging uncontrollably. You know, act like a 5-year-old would when they're really emotional and they're pretty well adjusted. You know, it's like, because it's like, look, it's like, you know, plenty of people are 50s and they do everything perfect by the book, but they're not emotional. They don't allow themselves to get emotional. It's like people who can be emotional and logical and be able to communicate. That's the people who have the real relationships. You know,
it's cool because what you have explaining is that you found that you're no longer allowing your relationships with anybody really, but especially a significant other, to define your self-worth, right? Whether
definitely.
Whether she believes you're the greatest person on this world or not, that's not going to have any effect on how you feel about yourself.
Well, I mean, look, anybody who I care about could hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I am definitely going to be susceptible to their judgments, and that's right. You know, only certain people I'm like that to. You know, and they have to earn that. You know,
right? And I'm not saying somebody who cares about opinion of you isn't going to hurt. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is you have found a way to where you don't need them.
No, yeah, I want this. I want this. I can be by myself if I have to.
Right. So when I say that their opinion of you is not going to define your self-worth, I'm not saying
I'll be me. Yeah, I'll be me. You know,
right? I'm not saying that their opinion is or is not going to hurt, because it is. You care about that person and what they think about you. But at the end of the day, you're going to be able to be like, look, I want you in my life. I don't need you in my life. I know I can live by myself. I'm happy with who I am as a person. Yes, it hurts that you don't think of me that way right now, but I know that I am worthy of feeling better about myself at the same time.
You know, it's crazy. I would use relationships. I would, you know, on purpose sabotage, you know, like we were talking about, so that I had to then climb out of a hole, because when I'm climbing out of a hole, I can do anything. I've got adrenaline. I've got, you know, I'm ready to right whatever wrong was done to me, you know? And it's like, I would put myself in a position where I felt inferior, where my inferior complex would just get rageful. And then I would be better. I'd lift more weights, or I'd learn more stuff, or I'd just be better. It'd like drive me to be a better human being, but I was doing it for all the wrong reasons. I was doing it out of spite versus out of just wanting to grow and be a better person. I was doing it to say, see who I can be. I wasn't doing it for me. I was doing it for that, to show that person, to spite them, you know?
Right.
Wrong reasons.
It's that whole treat others the way you want to be treated, right? But then, but we forget there's a second saying to that nobody says. Treat others the way you want to be treated. The second part of that, don't expect to be treated the way you treat others.
Yeah.
There's that second part that we forget. And because the reason being, if you expect to be treated the way you're treating somebody else, you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, and you're going to get hurt. And you're going to close yourself off, and you're going to take your ball and go home, a little baby, and pout.
Exactly.
And then get a lot of cats.
You don't have a lot of cats, do you?
No. I have a cute little puppy over there sleeping.
Yeah, we heard him snoring earlier.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with cats, though. My dad's getting two.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with cats. Just don't get a lot with that. Don't get a lot.
8, 9. That's a little too many.
That's a little bit too many. I'm going to move the conversation a little bit forward, and I want to say thank you for kind of diving into a little bit of what your thought processes are with the whole mental health thing, and being open and actually exposing the things you went through, because not a lot of us can. And I want to say thank you for doing that. Now, I also know a lot of artists expose themselves through their art, through their music, through their paintings, through their acting, however it is, they expose a little bit of who they are through their art.
Yeah, it's them saying, "Hey, I got this to offer. Does anyone think this is worth anything?"
Right. So I guess
otherwise they wouldn't show anybody. Yeah.
Right. And so my question to you now is, with what you're going through now, with what you're learning about yourself now, would you say with your new music coming out, is that a bit of an expression of what you've been learning?
Wait, say that one more time.
With what you've been going through, with your mental health growth and your understanding about who you are as a person, would you say that is being expressed or has been shown with the new music that you and Trap are coming out?
Yeah, you know what, the record that we put out last year, Shadow Work, was a lot of realizations, and like how things work, and like things that I wasn't conscious of before, like EO death stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and all these new songs are like the fruits of all that thinking, like what kind of relationship do you get when you decide to be real and all that, and feel the pain you need to feel so you can grow, and that, like, yeah, this is basically what a lot of these songs are about, just all the good things that happen from it. It's like some of the most positive music I've ever written,
Right.
I usually have like, I've had a light at the end of the tunnel, but it's not super positive,
And I love the title of your last year's album, Shadow Work. Now, anybody that is within that realm that understands what shadow work actually means, and ego death, and it's starting to become a little bit more popular, especially within the mental health realm of people, and the whole idea of what we talked about earlier, the psychedelics kind of taking you to a place where you can actually just see life the way it is. And, ego death is a loaded term. It means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. You have found a way to incorporate, it sounds like that album was the process, and what you're creating now is, like you said, the fruit from that process. And, you're writing these songs, and I'm going to use this to kind of roll us into Above It All. You wrote a song, and it's called Above It All, and you allowed myself and Fiegel to kind of get a grasp of it, listen to it, and man, holy shit! If that is not the freaking out, if that's not the song that explains what makes us fire and what we're trying to do, I don't know what is.
Awesome, man. That's what I want to capture.
Yeah, and you've captured it in a way that not only speaks to everybody, but it definitely speaks to a specific group of people in that civil service personnel, military, first responders. Numbers wise alone, we're 10 times more likely to develop a mental health disease, be it depression, anxiety, PTSD, addiction. On top of that, we're killing ourselves at almost a 4 times more rate than the general public.
Would you say that, vets, first responders, these are people that want to be part of something, right? They want to be part of something, an organization that they can be proud of, right? Is that underlying usually most people why they would want to join an institution or a service that takes care of other people? Or
I think
if you were to break it noble, right?
If you were to break it down into a general sense of the term, yes. But when you start talking to people individually, you'll quickly realize where the general term is, yes, I wanted to be part of something bigger than. Everybody's reason for wanting to be part of something bigger than is completely different.
Oh yeah,
it's completely different.
But that the one theme it just seems to me is like, it's like if you want to be part of something, it's like, maybe you didn't feel part of something growing up, you didn't feel like you had that, so you're gonna go and search for that later in life, So like psychologists and people who therapists and stuff, it's like, do you know why you wanted to be a psychologist so badly? Have you looked at that? It's like I look at motivations. Like, why do I want to do this? Why do I want to be this? You know, what is the deeper thing I can learn from it? You know,
It's actually a very good question, Chris, because I did not grow up wanting to be a firefighter.
Yeah.
Right. I did not grow up growing up. I wanted to be an actor. I started off modeling. I lived in San Diego for a little bit because I couldn't afford LA, but I could drive to LA. No big deal. But after doing some work on myself, I finally realized, well, I wanted to be an actor because then that allowed me to be someone I was not. Yeah. It allowed me to live a different life, somebody else's life, just for a little bit. Even if I had to pull emotions from my personal life to portray that character, it allowed me to express those emotions, but not as me.
I mean, the Army itself allows people to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just say at 18, I'm going to go, and for 4 years, I don't know where I'm going to go, but I'm going to probably learn something and change my entire outlook on life. You know,
right? And that is something that is definitely a reason for a lot of people that do that. But the way I explain it, Chris, is that people who decide to go into the civil service, and when I say civil service, I mean they go into a service that provides for civility more than themselves, for their fellow brothers and sisters, whether
for their
it's
fellow citizens,
general citizens, right? So that's why when I say civil service, I mean military and first responder. We decided to do this job that provides for other people.
Yeah.
But in doing that, that doesn't make us anything more or less than just like those people we're serving. We are normal human beings that do an abnormal job. Right? So when we see the tragedy, when we come across the bad call, when I lose a 6-year-old, when I lose an 8-year-old, when I lose, a 35-year-old that was just on the stretcher laughing and talking to us and making jokes, and all of a sudden has a heart attack, take him to the hospital and they end up not living. When literally 5 minutes before we were laughing and joking with them. That's happened to me. Those are calls that I've experienced. People think that because I do the job that I do, or anybody in my realm, because we do the job that we do, that we should be able to handle those things in a way that doesn't affect us. Well, no, I'm a normal human being first. I'm a human being first. And that's going to affect me just like it would anybody else. Now, are there certain aspects that are different? Sure. Yeah. This person maybe not have been somebody I've known. This person may have not been somebody that I had a really close relationship with, but it is somebody that I've watched take their last breath. And that affects me as a human being. Does it affect me as a firefighter and as an EMT doing the job? Yes, it also affects me that way. Did I do enough? Did I catch all the signs? Where did I go wrong? Am I worthy of doing this job anymore? What does this say about me? And then now I have this job stress, and then I go home. And that kind of stress, the home life stress, completely different from the job life stress. But trying to find that balance is hard. So I'll go home and I'm getting yelled at because the dishes aren't done. I'm getting yelled at because this wasn't cleaned up. And at home, those are home life stresses that are stressful to normal people, everyday people. Those are stresses. And it's not anything more or less than, but to me in my head, I'm like, I just lost a 6-year-old. What the fuck are you bitching at me about dirty dishes?
Yeah, you're like, someone should recognize how hard life is for me. Well,
right.
When do I get any kind of praise or
right.
when can I put my feet up?
But is that fair to the people in your life that don't understand that stress? No.
They don't know though. They don't know.
Right.
So people never put 2 and 2 together like that. They just feel attacked.
Right.
They never go, oh, maybe he's mad about this.
Right. And it's not wrong for them to have those feelings because they don't understand.
They shouldn't be attacked for no reason.
Yeah. They shouldn't be attacked for not understanding. Of course they're not going to understand. It's okay for them to not understand, and they shouldn't be looked down upon for them. And the reason why I'm bringing all this up is because you're writing stuff that kind of shows that, like, it shows that you obviously go through different types of stresses. You know, if you're with somebody, your family, you go through stresses on your line of work. Like, I'm sure the label's on you. Hey, we need new songs. Hey, we need new this. hey, I need you to start working. I need you to start writing. I need you this. I need you that. You're on a deadline. Hey, you got this tour coming up, man. What the hell are you going to do about it?
I just have a voice in my head saying that to myself, you know?
Right. And then when you go home and you're still kind of worried about that stuff, how do you expect the family to understand that when they're not in that life with you?
It's hard to compartmentalize it, man. Yeah.
Right. And my thing is I don't think we should have to. I think what we should do is try to find that balance. Right. And it's the balance that makes life difficult. It's finding that balance of just being okay. Just understanding that there are two different types of stresses in this life, and it doesn't matter which one is the one that's prevailing at that moment, because no matter what it is, you're still stressed. The human mind.
And if you get mad about the wrong thing, so if you get mad at the person who's at your house for not taking out the trash or whatever, but you're just more mad about the day you had, you're just starting an unnecessary fight that's going to be probably you forget about your shitty day. Now you're going to have a shitty night. It probably happens all the time. And really because the person doesn't feel comfortable, like being vulnerable with that other person and saying, yeah, I had a bad day at work. And because that person will probably just dismiss them and say, whatever, we all have bad days. And then, that person doesn't get that, like you said, a balance, like someone should be there for you at least a little bit. Ask how your day went, so it's just a balance, like you said.
Right. And being able to find that balance, because look, the human mind and emotions don't just come out of nowhere. Emotions are literally chemical reactions in your brain, right? And your actual mind does not know the difference between what caused the stress. They just know that there is stress. Now, are there different levels to stress? Sure. Absolutely, there's different levels of stress. There's low stress, medium stress, high stress situations. We know that through science. We know that. But people's measuring stick to that stress are all different. And your mind doesn't actually know the difference between the stress. They don't know the difference between what causes the stress. So when you go home and now you're stressful because you're in a fight with whoever's at home or you're in an argument, compared to the stress you had because, you just lost a 6-year-old on the gurney, your mind doesn't know the difference between those stresses. All it knows is that I am producing this stress chemical. Now you are stressed.
But it's great to know why.
It is great to know why. It is great to know why. Absolutely. Absolutely, it's great to know why. But what I'm saying is your mind cannot differentiate between the two. It just knows it's stressed, and it's producing those chemicals in your brain for a reason. It's because
you're going to do the fight or flight response. That's why.
Exactly. So being able to differentiate that stress and why it's coming about is very important. But it's also important to realize for anybody, person having the stress or the person that's trying to understand that person's stress, it's important for them to realize what level of stress comes from those stressors. Once being able to talk and open yourself up and be like, look, I just went through this. This is a bit more stressful to me than the dishes not being done, than you having a bad day, than you having to, like, those stresses for me right now are a little bit higher. I'm not trying to dismiss what you're saying. I'm just letting you know right now, I am not in the right headspace to deal with this stress because
a lot of people won't say all that. They'll just get mad.
They'll just get mad.
I'm not doing the dishes. Screw you.
Right. So what we need to try to do is we need to try to be open and honest with ourselves first.
Totally, dude.
Conversation starts with yourself first. Once you realize that, then you can be open and honest and explain yourself to the people in your life. What Makes Us Fire is all about being 100% good for you and for you first. Because if you're not 100% good for you, how do you expect to give 100% of yourself to anybody else in your life? To your job, to your career, to the people you love? How do you expect to give 100% of who you are and who you truly feel you are to anybody if you don't feel like you're 100% good for you?
Yeah. There's so many relationships where the two people don't know even what they need in a relationship. So they obviously don't ask for it, and they don't get it. So they're unhappy. You know, they're not happy people. Like, they're not like gushing all over each other like the first 6 months, you know, and it's like, you just see relationships die by 1,000 paper cuts. You know, I just call them negative points. Like, you know, like your girl in the beginning, if you don't take her out the trash, you don't do something, it's like, whatever, right? You don't want to rock the boat. But after a couple of years, it's like every time you just go, screw you, I don't want to do it. The negative point, a little negative point. After 10 of those, the next night, she's kind of like annoyed at you, and you're like, what? I worked all day. Why are you treating me like this? You know? So it's
Right,
like,
exactly.
and then the people, after 1,000 of those, you don't even know where to start to repair it.
Right. And so what does it start with? It starts with the conversation, right? The conversation with yourself. Yes, there's something going on with me, and now let me have this conversation with you. That way,
Yeah.
everybody knows where you're at. You know where you're at, and God willing, the understanding can start happening.
Yeah, a lot of people are just too afraid to do that. Too
Right.
afraid to be that vulnerable, and they get stomped on or get their feelings hurt or not understood or whatever. Yeah.
Right. And what we're trying to do here is to let them know that it's okay to start that conversation. It's okay to be misunderstood. It's okay to not even really understand yourself right now.
But make an
It's okay.
attempt.
But make an attempt. Start the conversation.
I love it.
Going through on and moving this forward, why is it that, and I brought up the song again, right? Above It All. Why did you write this song, man? And I want to start talking about this because this is a song that you are getting ready to release here shortly. And hopefully we can work something out to where I can use your song as the anthem for What Makes Us Fire, because I really truly believe that what you wrote, like just the first bar, man, the first bar and the first chorus is literally what we're trying to do is you're gonna go through it, but you're gonna come out stronger. You're gonna come out better.
Yeah.
And like, man, like I seriously, that literally the first bar, man, I was just like, anthem. This is the fucking anthem.
I'm into it, man. It's basically just my response to Facebook, you know, kicking me and my band off their platform since we've been there since, you know, for a decade and had 600,000 followers, and we were getting like, you know, 500,000 to 1 million engagement every month. And then one stupid meme that had like a symbol on it, you know, and I didn't even say the name of the group. They told, you can't say the name of the group. And I said, okay. And then I did another post and didn't say the name, and that was too much. And then, you know, so, well, I guess that my band is a hate group, or I engage in hate speech because that's what they told everybody was the reason. So, you know, and, you know, you just got to be above it all, right? You can't, like, if I let that stuff eat at me, you know, I wouldn't be able to get up in the morning, you know? So it's just a conscious choice to be like, I'm not going to get bogged down in stuff that's not going to help me. You know, I'm only going to do things that help me, you know, so in my cause. You know?
Your reason for writing the song is so you're going to rise above it, right? But this anthem,
no matter what they do,
right? But this anthem, it screams out to so much more than just what happened with you, what you guys went through, and how you're rising above it. This anthem screams so much more than that. I think you have an idea, but I don't think you truly understand. When people are going to start listening to this, Chris, you're gonna see and you're gonna hear people literally coming to you and saying thank you for this song, because it's going to allow them. It's going to allow them to realize that no matter what they went through, you know, a military service member coming back and experiencing what they did overseas, or experiencing any type of that trauma, they're going to listen to the song and be like, you know what? Yeah, I can rise above this. I can rise above this stronger. I can do this. A first responder going through the shit, I can rise above this. And I'm even going to go down to just in the general level, when people are having a really bad day and something bad happens to them, a trauma, they're going to listen to this song and they're going to be like, you know what? I don't have to allow this to break me. I can use this to grow from. I can use this to become stronger, faster.
Yeah. Better. You got to use it as fuel, or you're going to get buried by the things that life does to you, you know, or the people do to you, or whatever, you know.
And
the way you're victimized, you don't have to be a victim the victimized don't have to stay victims.
No, you don't. The way to rise above being a victim is to not allow what happened to you define you. And the way to do that,
it's like you're allowed to say, I was victimized. I was definitely a victim at one point, but I refuse to be a victim. Like, people have a problem with that when I say that. They have an issue with that. Oh, when someone gets raped, a mother gets raped and this and that, or like this, like, it's like, yeah, but they don't have to stay victims. They can actually empower themselves and rise above it. They can do that. That's a choice.
It is a choice, and that's a hard thing that a lot of people don't want to hear, right? But listen to the stories of people that have gone through this situation. There's a lot of stories of women, men that have used what happened to them. And yes, were they a victim of something? Absolutely, they were a victim of something. But they're not allowing it to define them as a person. They are not.
We've all been a victim of something at some point, man.
Right. And they're not allowing it to define them. They're not allowing it to be like, this happened to me, so therefore, from now on, I am going to identify as a victim.
There's plenty who can only identify as a victim.
There are.
That's it.
There are.
And everything they do.
I'll give you that.
Is victim, victim, victim.
I'll give you that. There are. Right? Because, and it's sad because from outside looking in, and I can't speak for them, I can only speak for myself, but when I was the victim, that was my excuse. It was my crutch. Right? It was
point your finger.
Right. It was my crutch to say, you did something wrong to me, instead of taking responsibility for how what you did.
You don't have to look at yourself and your own shortcomings.
Exactly. And I think that people get caught in that because it gives them an explanation. And when they have an explanation for how they feel validated in it. And it's kind of sad because you're like, you can be so much more if you just took that step. You can be so
they're satisfied with their dozen other victim friends that all, they're all patting each other in the back saying they're there.
Right.
And that's as far as they're going to go.
But for me, that's sad. For me,
I agree. I try to do what I can to reverse that, man.
Exactly. And it's sad because like, I don't want to talk about those people because for me and the way I think it's just them not being able to take that next step. And to me, that's sad. To me, that
hurts too much, man. To realize the truth.
Right. To me, I feel sorry for them. I feel really bad for them because they can become and they can grow from what happened to them so much more if they just allowed themselves.
They're just not conscious of that because it hurts too much to be conscious of that.
Right.
Like there's things that you can never go back and not know, right? Like that you now know about yourself. You can never not know that now. You're now conscious of certain things that you just weren't before. And so certain people just can't deal with the reality of that ego death,
Right. And that's what it was for me. It's for me, even when I was going through this, right? I even told my therapist, hey, we're going to do this EMDR. But I got to let you know, I'm extremely afraid. She goes, well, what are you afraid of? And I was like, one, reliving the experience. Two, finding out who I am, not allowing this experience to define me, because that's all it was. My entire life was defined by what happened to me. Now I'm going through the process of learning who I am without this defining me. I don't know who that person is because I never tried this before. I've never done this before. And it's a scary thing because who is that person that is not defined by the victimhood mentality?
I'd say a good rule is just follow your fear. Like go towards whatever it is that you're afraid of, because there's like a pot of gold at the end of that every time.
And that's what I'm learning. And that's what I'm learning is that I say this, I've said this before. I said, people a lot of the times they like to avoid their quote unquote triggers. They want to avoid them, right? Or they'll try to silence people, because it triggered them for what they said or what they did or how they acted. For me, I advocate bring on my triggers. I want to know what they are. Tell me what my triggers are. Show me what my triggers are, because I don't want anything else in this life to define how I feel about myself. And the only way to do that is to find out what it is that's going to trigger me into that thought process.
To really feel the the most sure of yourself, you've got to know all that stuff, right? I mean, how would you even know who you are if you don't do any work on figuring that out?
Right. And I don't want anything else in this life other than myself to dictate how I feel about myself. And the only way to do that is to find out what those things I'm giving that power to.
It's crazy how long it takes, man.
Oh my God. I'm 36. I just turned 36 years old a couple
why
years
can't you
ago.
figure out like at 22? You just got it all. You figured it all out.
Look, where I would be now, God knows. God knows where I would be now.
Yeah, man.
When it comes to success and whatever, right? What are your plans, man? Like, I didn't ask how old you were. I'm assuming, late 30s, early 40s.
Yeah, I'm 40.
You're 40?
Just turned 40.
Okay. So, you're only 4 years older than me. I thought, believe it or not, because I listened to you and Trapped back in high school, I thought you guys were a little bit older than that. That's because I'm ignorant, and I apologize.
Oh, good.
But, the reason being is the stuff that you guys have come out with and the stuff that you guys share, and especially you, being outspoken and now a lot more than before. I would even say, Chris, that you're being way more outspoken than you ever have before. And I've read some articles actually recently because I wanted to do a little bit of research and talking to you that it's actually caused some issue on, your social media platforms with your labels. You're being outspoken about what's going out and what
it just caused an issue with the actual industry that's trying to convince everybody, they're a consumer of one thing. And I saw that and I was like, no way. I'm not going to just sit back and do nothing about that.
Right. And
so I pissed off a lot of industry people for sure.
It did. And, it even caused a little bit of turmoil within the band itself. And we don't have to go through that.
The guy who announced that he is quitting the band, it's like we were already had found someone else who was a better fit. He played with us for a year, and then 2020 happened, and then he just took that as an opportunistic moment to just be like, I don't agree with what this or that, just to try to get another gig, and it didn't work. So,
okay,
he never played an album ever.
Okay,
our guitar player makes all the drum parts, so we have a new drummer now who's just phenomenal. So, I'm sure he's going to write some drum parts himself because he's just badass.
Well, the article I read made it sound like it was because of
because they're trying to make me look as bad as they can.
Exactly.
Hey, look what happens when you're a drum player; you lose everything.
Right,
it's just not true.
Not true. If anything, you are growing at a phenomenal rate. On,
like I said, 1 million more people listening a month.
Right, exactly. Where do you want? And I know you're working on this new album, working on this new song and everything. What does it look like from here on out? I see the route you're taking with this. A lot of your songs are pushing like self growth.
Yeah,
like a lot of them are pushing self growth.
What else is there, man? That's how I look at it.
And but see, that's a little bit different from where you were before, and that's why I said at the beginning of all this is that your music is matured with you, with the times, with growing within yourself. You can hear the maturity happen as you guys. You're obviously not making Headstrong anymore, is what I'm saying. You're obviously not making Echo. You're obviously not making Walls. Your music is growing into something more than what it was before. Not saying your music wasn't anything more than
Headstrong was like an emotion, and above it all is like a concept,
Right. And it's awesome to see. It's awesome to hear. It's that when I heard above it all, it's amazing to feel as well. Like it elicits a feeling, and as a lot of music does for a lot of different people. And your music has, Trapped, the band, and music has done a lot of that for me growing up. And that's why I was really excited about having you come on the show. I was really excited actually making this connection because I truly feel, and after talking to you, that we're kind of on the same path right now. You, myself, Adam, we're all on the same path. We're all on the same path.
A lot of us on this path, yeah, man.
Of self-awareness, of self-growth, of learning about how it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to share that we're not okay, and it's okay to share that we're struggling and that we're gonna make it through, but here's how to do it. Here's our path of doing it. And you're doing that with your music. You're doing that with, your social media and with what you share on social media. And I just want to say, one, as a fan, this is just as a fan, thank you for what you've done, and thank you for what you're continuing to do, and thank you for growing that music. But two, just as a friend, Chris, from Josh to Chris, I want to say thank you for allowing yourself to be vulnerable and open that way, because not a lot of people can. And I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your thought process and what you actually went through and how you had to find that path and go through it. Because, I want people to hear that just because you have this notoriety, just because you have this success in your past, it's not changing who you are as a human being. You still have to grow within yourself. You still find things that you're not happy with about yourself. You still feel down about yourself. And it took some extenuating circumstance for you to realize that. And then you started researching it. And look, everybody listening, it doesn't matter who you are. We all go through this part of our lives of trying to become better than what we were before. But it takes that self-realization. It takes having that first conversation with ourselves first, realizing, hey, there's something going on here. I need to start working on it. But once you're able to get to that point, that's the beginning. And then it's just work and work and work and work on after that. Being open to hearing that the way you lived life before might have not been the best way for you to have been living life.
But you gotta experiment, right? You gotta go live life the wrong way so that you know what's the right way, man. I mean, that's a huge part of life.
Exactly. How do you want Above It All to come out? And what do you want this anthem to be about? Because, and I know I'm calling it an anthem. I don't know if you're just calling it a song, but to me, it's a fucking anthem. To me, it's an anthem to show people that your self-growth can mean that you come out better, stronger, faster.
Yeah, it's literally, it's a recognition that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and that, the pain that comes from, fighting for what you believe in or going for your cause or whatever your meaning of life is to you, going for that and letting everything else fall by the wayside,
How do you want this to come out? What do you want it to be tied to?
Just, like I said, man, I just hope it helps people. It just gives people more strength to do whatever it is that they feel that they need to do.
Have you ever thought about, on top of, obviously you do a lot of stuff with your music and you share a lot of messages with your music, but have you ever thought about, maybe, I don't know if you have before, but like a motivational speaker type thing where you go and you share your story, how you got to your success, the trials and tribulations you've gone through, not only with the actual aspect of going through that and getting to where you are, but within yourself as well, the mental health part of it, the struggles
if there's a need for that, that arises at some point, and I can do the Tony Robbins thing, that'd be fun. But I think making music, it's pretty much the same thing. It's like I can do the same thing and also satisfy the artist in me that wants to push a message, but also wants to be creative and be musical in general, because I just love music and I love chords and putting together different pieces of music into one body of music, one song. I'll never stop loving that. Just getting better at my craft, playing the acoustic guitar and singing, or just better singer or whatever. That to me is a big part of my life too. So I love that I can maybe get someone else to also pursue their passions and let the stuff that really doesn't matter, that's triggering you for 2 minutes, and then you get the person back, and then someone else triggers you and you get them back, and it's just tit for tat revenge crap, and you're basically just indulging the worst parts of your shadow for the hell of it. And it's just like stuff like that. You gotta be above it all.
What are you wanting? Are you, how do I say this? So with the nonprofit, we have a motivational speaking area, and I get what you're saying. the music for you is not only, it's like a therapy, it allows you to share your story as well and everything else. But for me, I think, we have a motivational speaking aspect of the nonprofit. I think when people get to hear the personal side, you know, the man behind the song and where that emotion came from for the song, it gives it a little bit more meaning. And you're doing that here now on the podcast. Obviously, you're giving us kind of a background as to where the influence and the inspiration came for your new album that's going to be coming out here soon and your new songs. But on a personal level, I think it almost, without sounding like a dick, it almost means more when you're able to sit with somebody face to face and be open and honest. Because I'm asking you questions that are kind of forcing you to be open and honest with yourself, but at the same time while you're being open and honest with yourself, expressing that to me and exposing that to me. And of course the audience here at WhatMakesUsFire. So I think if you're able to do that a little bit more, I think your story, Chris, can actually help a lot of people. Your music helps a lot of people already. Don't get me wrong. But I think that being open and vulnerable even more, sharing your experience, what you did to get to where you're at, because everybody has a different path. Your path's a little bit different than mine and where I'm getting to my mental health clarity and my being okay with who I am. Your path's a little bit different, obviously. But there's some similarities that allow other people to be like, you know what? Hey, he went through something similar. The relationship for you a couple of years ago is what brought you to that point of self-realization that, hey, maybe I need to start working on something. A lot of people have that, but they'll go through those constant self-sabotaging relationships and never learn from it.
Because those people are stuck on something that they have no clue why they're stuck on it, you know?
Right. And
emotional problem from them.
But you being able to share that you accepted that about yourself.
Yeah, I did. I accepted that there was something like that was damaging my relationships, and that was basically keeping me stuck in one level, just not growing from that level.
Right. But that story itself can help somebody else and be like, wow, hey, I'm doing that. Somebody else is saying, wow, I'm actually doing that. Maybe I need to do this. So they're going to hear your story and be like, whoa, I'm doing that right now.
Yeah, there's definitely value in what I tried to do.
Right. Where do you guys go from here? Where do you go from here, man? I know obviously you're not going to give it Trap. I see Trap going until you're fucking 70. You're going to be the Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger at 70 years old, singing Headstrong.
Oh yeah, I'll be playing music until I drop dead, for sure.
Singing Headstrong in front of a million other 60 and 70-year-old fans. You're going to be that Depeche Mode. You guys, I don't see you ever giving up music. But if there was something for you to move forward on, what would that be? What does that look like?
I definitely have thought a lot about getting like a psychology degree, and doing that. Just being more involved in that, or at least learning more about psychology and all that. I just love it. So I don't know if I would go to a college and get like a piece of paper saying that I'm qualified to talk about it, but definitely something I would explore.
Well, I think even if you don't go and get that piece of paper, I think expanding your knowledge on it doesn't necessarily mean you can't talk about it, right? And it's the same thing with me. Like, I've done a lot of research. Once I got my diagnosis, I started researching the hell out of that diagnosis because I wanted to figure out what I can do to get better. I wanted to find out what are the signs and symptoms, quote unquote, signs and symptoms that I should be looking for. What are the types of things that I need to be aware of when I start feeling a certain way, stuff like that. And so what I always tell people is like, I am not a mental health expert by any stretch of the imagination. But what I am an expert is on sharing my story and sharing with you what I have learned and what works for me and what has worked for other people. That's what I'm an expert. I'm an expert on sharing my story and what I have learned. If it works for you, great. If not, hopefully it allows you to start researching it for yourself as well.
Yeah, be an expert on being vulnerable.
Exactly.
There you go. I love it.
You have shown a lot of support lately for the military, PTSD awareness, the 22 to 0, 22 day, first responder mental health awareness. Where did that all come from?
Well, I mean, we, our song Headstrong, came a hit like right as we were, angry about 9/11 and who was responsible for that, and enemies that we felt were responsible for that, whatever, at that time, and so a lot of service members, kind of grew up, or at least did their time out there in Iraq and all that with our first album, and so we just we got a lot of fans in that in that community, and I think a lot of that's become first responders too. But and some a lot of them don't either. But I consider everybody first responder, civil servant, armed forces. It's all part of the same kind of thing, like we were discussing earlier.
All pretty much the same part of the family, yeah.
And so I think that's why I think at that time, 9/11, going into 2002 and into 2003, we were a country that definitely was mourning some trauma, and I think that a lot of people used our first album to deal with that, and that crazy time in that first couple of years of the 2000s, So I think that cemented a bond that we still got, with a lot of people. TikTok's really showing that.
Yeah, it has. It has. I think, man, you could not have met a better friend in Fiegel.
He's awesome, man.
You could not have met a better friend. You could not have met a better supporter, Chris. He was on the podcast a few episodes ago, and hearing his story and where he came from and how and what he's doing for the veteran community and why he decided to start doing it is a story I think I'm going to let you go and find out yourself. The fact that you are showing support for that in your way is huge. And I want to say thank you as a part of that community. I want to say thank you for continuing to show that support and for doing what you can in your own way to give that support, because it's huge. It means a lot to us as civil service.
Appreciate it.
It means a lot. And being friends with Fiegel, friends with myself, Fiegel is Armed Forces. Granted, he was Air Force. I hope he listens to that. I give him shit for being in the Air Force. It's a little joke. Me being a firefighter, EMT, cops, we definitely look for people that can kind of understand us in a way that not a lot of people understand us, especially nowadays. And so you being who you are, you having the notoriety and you understanding, it means a lot to us in the service, you and your band and what you guys do for us. And so on behalf of them, I'm going to say thank you. I can't say all of them because I'm sure some of them don't like trap music, but that's fine. They're dumb.
Okay.
Yeah, they're dumb. They're stupid. They don't know what they're missing. But I do want to say thank you to you and the band itself. I want to we're gonna switch roles here. I'm gonna start winding it up a little bit. We've been going for almost 2 hours now, and I really do appreciate all your insight and your thought process and kind of giving us a little bit of background into who you are, the band itself. I usually close the show with 3 questions, and the 3 questions can either elicit another 15, 20-minute conversation, or 5 minutes and we're done. No big deal. But the last question is usually towards civil service members, but I love getting the idea of somebody that hasn't really been in the civil service as to what that answer is, because it's different. But my first question to you, Chris, is if, say, you were on we'll call it the Trapped podcast, and you host the Trapped podcast, but your guest, Chris, was Chris, lead singer of Trapped. Yep. What's the one question you would have asked yourself and or piece of information you would have liked to share that maybe you and I didn't hit on?
I don't know, man. I usually would have asked you, why'd you get into what you're getting into, but I kind of went over that. So, I mean, like, that's what I'm always interested. Why do people choose to get into whatever it is that they're passionate about,
I'll build.
like
I'll build
what
on
are
that
the what are
question.
the underlying reasons? Like what are the reasons that maybe you're not aware of? You know?
I'll build on that question. You did go over why you did this and why you started it and why you continued it. Why will you not ever give this up?
Oh man. Because it's like I know that that enough people care, enough people think that new music from Trapt or myself matter. You know that enough people, want new music and want it to do what our music has done for them in the past. You know, just keep that going. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Do you think that you're allowing, by saying that, do you think you're allowing what it does for other people kind of dictate what it does for you?
Yeah, well, I never think logically when I'm writing music, so whatever comes, it comes. So it's not like I have to build an engine, so here, let's do that. It's like I'm strumming along, and I do something on accident that sounds good, and then think of some kind of lyric, and then the song's written, and I'm like, didn't even know. I'm like, what the hell just happened? So like a lot of times that happens. So, and I think the best songs come that are just like from the ether. That's just like somehow you just write them, and you're like, how did this even happen, or what? Wasn't even thinking about anything.
Would you say that those songs? Would you say that those songs may be coming from a place inside of who you are that maybe
like subconscious? A lot of art is about what's in that subconscious that you can't really put logic to, because it's emotional.
That's what I was saying. Do you think that music comes from a part of you that you haven't really found yet on a in your face level?
Yeah, I mean, I can't just tap into it at will. Like the harder I try to write something great, the worse it is. So it's very frustrating that you can't just tap into something like that whenever you want to. So it's like you don't really have the control over it. I mean, you can play well. Something preordained, like something you wrote, you memorized, but like just coming up with cool stuff. It's just like a magic thing.
Would you ever want to be aware of that part of you?
I don't know. I mean, I would love to just like say I'm going to write a great song that's compelling and original and all this stuff. Like anytime I sit down to play guitar, yeah, I love that. But I'm definitely happy with how it works now, where it's kind of just like something great might happen, something I might waste my time.
I think personally, the way you're doing it now is probably the best way, because then it allows you to, like you just said, it allows you to fail.
You just let it, whatever comes out, whenever it needs to come to the surface.
Right. And it allows you to fail, and failing you can learn from. You can build yourself on that failure. Right.
Yeah.
And I think personally, I would probably not want to find out or be aware of that part of my headspace or who I am, because then that failure doesn't happen, that growth doesn't happen, and learning more about who you are through that failure doesn't happen. So I think on a personal level, I would say I'd keep it as is, but I totally get when somebody says, hey, we need another great song. How great would it be to just sit down and write a great song, So I get that as well. I totally get that. My second question, brother, is very simple. Do you have any questions for me? Simple as that.
Well, when you were telling me about what happened when you were a kid,
Mm-hmm.
I could imagine. I couldn't help but imagine that, like you were like a pretty free spirited kid that was like very trusting,
Mm-hmm.
and because you just wanted to be accepted and you wanted people to like you.
Yep.
And that has been like what you've had to like strengthen or shore up, right?
Yeah.
Or do you think or that's the wrong thing? That's somebody who would actually close themselves off because of what happened to them. Would you say that for most of your life you were closed off because of that?
I would say for most of my life, because of what happened to me, I self-sabotaged and closed off as soon as I didn't allow the relationship to go past a certain point. Whether it was a friendship, or, a romantic relationship, acquaintance, whatever. I would say what happened to me would only allow a relationship to hit a certain point. And I would always, always, always either self-sabotage and or end that relationship and not allow
so those people manipulated you and you were trusting of them at one point. And then, and so you're just, so like that was like such a betrayal that no one, I couldn't even really, I would have to go through the same thing to really put myself in your shoes, but I can imagine that.
Yeah, you hear about people going through similar experiences and they come out of it treating life a completely different way. They either shut everybody off because there's no way they can trust anybody, or it doesn't faze them that much at all. Or, I mean, there's a litany of different ways that people, depending on how their mind works and what else they were exposed to, how that affects them later on in life. For me, it literally destroyed relationship because I was self-sabotaging a relationship because I thought in my head I was only worthy of this much.
Yeah, they're going to do something similar to those people.
Anything past that?
Yeah, you probably didn't even think that. That was just what you felt.
Right. And it's not until going through therapy now, it's not until recently that I started to realize that I would self-sabotage. I would start, like, if I was in a relationship and I felt like I was starting to be pushed away or whatever, fuck it. I cheated. I lied.
Yeah.
I made myself.
And you're always going to have that fear. Even like, next relationship and you get real deep and all that stuff, it's like that fear is going to come back. It's just like you have to be able to recognize it and go, no, I'm going to let my logic do the thinking this time.
Right. And that's what's starting to happen now. Through my therapy, through my medication and everything else, through cognitive behavioral therapies. I'm getting ready to have another EMDR treatment in about a month or two.
Yeah, man.
I'm learning that about myself. And I still have a long way to go. I still have my depressive episodes. I still have my anxiety attacks. They're not as bad as they once were, which is great, but I still have them. And
are you able to say that those people were just like demon, horrible entities that you just got the luck of the draw and they, got you were put in their path and that those are just horrible people and that doesn't reflect on you at all? Like, have you been able to come to terms with that?
A little. That's a good question because my therapist.
Because you don't talk about like you're angry at them or you see the bad things that they did.
So the reason I don't is because when I do start, it's like, okay, so you know how everybody says you have to forgive to move on. You have to forgive to move on. In my head, it's like, I will never.
Why would you have to forgive those people? They don't deserve that.
Exactly. Right. So in my head, I'm like, no, in my head, but the therapist is like, well, you have to forgive what happened so you can move forward. Like, I don't understand that word forgive. They're like, no, you don't forgive them. You forgive what happened. And I'm still struggling with that.
They're saying that you, whatever, like that you take that was your fault. Like any of that you feel was your fault, you have to forgive that part of it.
Right.
Like just that you were a kid that was wanting to meet people and was susceptible. Like you'd have to forgive that part of yourself for being like somebody who wants to make friends and wants to as a sensitive free spirit, which is a good quality. They took advantage of that,
Yeah. And I understand that, but a part of me is still very upset with myself that I didn't fight back, that I didn't scream, that I didn't yell, that I didn't scratch, claw, bite my way out of the situation.
You're frozen with fear.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's what it was, but I'm still upset with myself because of it.
But that's what they're talking about. You have to forgive that, and it's easier said than done.
Yeah, logically, I get it. Like, on a logical level, I understand that logically, right? And people are like, well, if you understand it logically, then why don't you just apply it? I'm like, well, it's not that easy to just apply it because I'm still upset with myself for not having that strength then.
I'm sure you still feel that paralysis.
Yeah. You
couldn't move. I'm sure you had like dreams about it where you couldn't move, couldn't do what you needed to do.
Exactly.
Physically.
And it pisses me off about myself. Not necessarily with, like, obviously I'm pissed off with what they did, but I'm more upset with myself for not being that person that I feel like I am today. Like, if anything like that happened today, you better believe I'm fighting tooth and nail for my life, for my.
Well, now you have this adult in you that you didn't have then.
Right. And so it makes it difficult for me to apply that thought process to that 6-year-old that just froze.
It's crazy how the emotional part of you can't just speak to it logically. It's just, that doesn't work.
It doesn't make sense.
It has to like have epiphanies that feel things, that have some kind of emotion tied to the experience or what you learned or whatever. It's like, it's got this epiphany. It's got to be like an emotional thing to change how you look at things or how you feel about things.
I'm still looking for that. I'm still looking for that. I really am. I complete honesty, I'm still looking for that.
I wish you best luck in that, man.
I appreciate that. But I am fighting it. That's the thing, though. I am fighting it. I am trying. That's the thing. I'm not allowing it to just be what it is.
And help others, man, because that's probably the number one issue in America, in the world, maybe, is that things like that has happened to people and they just can't talk about it.
Right. And that's
why I know, like, the family members of mine who only told me, something happened, and it's like, I've never told anyone that. It's like, they just that one person told one person felt like a million times better,
Right. And that's why I'm sharing my story the way I do. Right.
Yeah,
and that's why I share when I slip, when I have those depressive episodes. Just recently I had 2 attempts on my life within the last year. And yeah. And so, but I talk about it very nonchalantly now. Whereas before I'd be very ashamed of talking about it. Now I'm not so ashamed of talking about it because I'm not the only one that has lived through those things. But if I can start talking about it, right? If I can start, I'm
sure you did think you were at one point, though.
Oh, obviously, absolutely. We all think, and they are. Our story is unique to us, right? And it is. It's unique to who you are and what you went through. However, in the grand scheme of things, when you start hearing those stories, the generalities of those stories start connections.
No, yeah.
That you didn't know.
Because we all need the same shit. So our stories are going to at least rhyme.
Right. So it doesn't matter what got me to that depressive state, really. Whatever it was got me to that depressive state. And that's what I tell other people is just like, quit with this dick measuring contest bullshit. You went through that. Well, I went through this. Well, you were molested. Well, I was raped. I was this.
Yeah, let me one up you.
Let me one up you. It's this dick measuring contest. And in my head, I'm like, that really sucks for you. But in the end, are you depressed about it? Do you have PTSD about it? Yes. Okay. Well, so do I. So
fix it, man.
What does it matter what got us there? Why can't we both work on?
Why can't you trust other people?
Right.
Still.
Why can't we work on? We both have PTSD. We both are sad. We're both depressed. Doesn't matter what got us there. We can connect on this and work with each other and try building up each other with the commonality of what got us there. The story on what got us there is unique to us. That story is unique to us. But what's not unique is that we're both sad. That's a general thing. That's something we can work together on. That's something we can learn from each other on. How are you getting through it? How am I getting through it? Let's share our stories together on how we're getting through it.
Yeah, people think that no one else has dealt with the thing that they're dealing with, and that could be somewhat true. But there's millions who have gone through something very close.
Exactly.
It's just
and that's why I will never say, Chris, if you went through something, I would never say, man, I know exactly what you're talking about. I know exactly how you felt. No, I don't know. I'm not.
I say I can imagine.
I can imagine, or I'll say I understand. I'll say I understand. I don't know, but I understand. Me and you can go through the same situation, the same thing, and we both react to it differently.
Yep.
But because we went through that same situation or similar situation, I can understand how you got to that thinking. I can understand how you got to that feeling.
You can put yourself in there and say, well, how would I feel?
Exactly.
If I did that.
Exactly.
Happened to me.
Right. We went off to a little bunny trail. I appreciate the question. That's actually one of the more personal questions I've actually had. And I appreciate it because I like answering those questions. I really do. And I want you to know I'm not afraid to answer that question.
Right on.
And I appreciate you asking that question. I appreciate you having balls to ask that question. It's not a lot of people.
Yeah, I know. I really, have no filter with that because it's like I get an idea in my head, like a question I want to ask. It's really hard not to.
No, I love it.
And ask the question.
I fucking love it, man. I love people that are like that because then it tells me that You're the kind of person that's going to be like, hey, I see some bullshit here. Let me talk about it. And that's the kind of people I want in my life.
Oh yeah,
Those are
I'll
the type of
care
people I
about
want in
what
my
you're
life.
saying. Yeah,
Exactly. Those are the type of people I want in my life. Those are the
yeah,
type
man.
of people I want to
Likewise,
associate with.
dude. Definitely.
My last question to you, Chris, before we sign off, I ask this to a lot of the civil service personnel that I have on the show because I'd like to get their idea of what got them into doing what they were doing. But asking a civilian that's not within the civil service realm, I like hearing their idea about what it is that got them to be doing this job. You're on What Makes Us Fire. And when I say what makes us fire, take that fire out and put what makes us a civil service member. What makes us somebody that is willing to sacrifice of ourselves for others? And it is a sacrifice, be it time, money, mental health, stability, whatever it is.
Why I think you do that?
Yeah. Why do you think it is that?
Because I think that you didn't get that when you were a child. You didn't get that security. You didn't get somebody who was looking out for you, protecting you. So you're going to do it for others.
Do you think that idea is a general statement for the lot of civil service personnel?
I think so, because they felt very powerless and helpless at some point in their childhood, and they're not about to feel that ever again if they can help it.
That's an interesting thought.
Because what other way can you be in control? Be on the people who are trying to maintain control.
And and I love your explanation, because your explanation goes more on the personal, deeper level, right? Well, a lot of people have said, well, there's this innate thing inside them that they want to help other people. And that might be true. That might be true. But where did that innate feeling of wanting to help other people come from? And I like
because they didn't have that, man. Usually.
I like your explanation is that it's more on that personal level, that they didn't have that within them. So now they're finding that they can be that for something else. They're being the thing that they always wanted.
They're just trying not to feel helpless like they did before in their life, you know? Like feeling helpless and powerless is a horrible human emotion, or horrible human feeling. And how you respond to that feeling is basically what makes you or not.
Why do you think it is that people chose to use that feeling but push it towards caring about other people or doing something for other people?
Like I said, because they just don't feel that was done for them. And I'm sure most of the people wouldn't even have listed that as one of the reasons, because it would be something pretty deep, like something that they'd have to look at a lot of stuff, like what molded them into who they are, to explore that. If that was the reason why, because of something I didn't get, now I want that, and here's the best way to get it. I think a lot of people wouldn't be able to admit that. I just look at where are you now and why, what are your motivations for that,
And I really do respect that line of thinking, because it definitely takes it, instead of it being a more general answer, you're taking it down to the individual. You're taking it down to the point of, it's this individual doing something that they might not even be cognitively aware of, and making the decision that they did to do the job.
We all need love and attention. And I think that people who are worried about their safety, or not even their safety, but just want control, because of when they weren't in control, bad things happened. That is a recipe for not being able to love very well. So to me, the opposite of love is control. So there's this, like, I just like that controlling parent. It's just not loving what they're doing. It's controlling. And so, like, those that are obsessed with control have no room for love in their lives. And then people who just like love and that's all they care about, the last thing they want to do is control anything that anybody's doing. They just want the best for everybody.
And I think there has to be a little bit of a balance, because if you're extreme on that love part, you can be taken advantage of and you can be hurt. And if you're extreme on the other end, you'll never be able to actually feel
You got to be selfish enough to put on your own gas mask. You got to be selfish enough to show yourself up before you help anybody. So there has to be some selfishness, and I think that, every human being to a degree has to be selfish at some point, but then also to feel like you're a part of something, you have to be selfless too. So it's the balance, it's that balance of, I'm not going to let everyone walk all over me, but I'm also going to not let anyone walk all over everyone else either, and that's, to me, like, that's going to make you feel good, and the people who didn't have the security as children, like, that drives them. And they some people end up drug addicts because they just have no way to fix that feeling in them. And then some people just really meet the challenge, and use all that as fuel.
Well, Chris, brother, I want to say thank you, literally. Thank you for expressing all your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions.
Yeah, this is great. I love stuff like this, man.
Yeah, and I thank you for coming on the show, because even, just you as a human being, man, I appreciate you expressing who you are, your thought process, what you went through, just as a human being, man. Just it
helps me figure out who I am to talk about it. It's like, I don't know. I can't put myself, put my finger exactly on it, who I am, what like, I have to discuss it with other people to really know, exactly what I feel deep down about this stuff. Because a lot of stuff you don't even know how you feel about it until you hear it in words coming out of your mouth.
The more you talk about it, the more aha moments you're going to be able to have.
Yeah, no doubt.
I actually posted a video on TikTok about, somebody asked me who I was, like, who are you? And, I go through, I don't know who I am, but I'm trying to figure that out. And then he asked me, well, tell me something about who you are. And I was just like, I had to think about it. I had to sit back and I had to think about it quite a bit. And I came back with him is, I am nobody more than, less than, or neutral to the world. And I am, there's no words that can describe me, no description, no definition. I'm nobody. But being nobody allows me to become whoever I choose to be.
Yeah, I would never be so rigid in your personality that you'd know exactly who you are, because then you're not, open to changing. Right. Like, I just like, hey, I could change how I look at life tomorrow if I learn something new.
Right. And I'll send you that video on the social media so you can see what I was talking about. It came out a lot better on the video than it is me explaining it to you. And I kind of feel
nice. You got to be open to an ego death. That really has to be it. You have to see the beauty in, like, having that painful realization.
Right.
That you could be better.
Now, people, and I'm going to squirrel moment real quick. Sorry, What Makes Us Fire family. The squirrel moment real quick. What does ego death mean to you? We've said it a couple of times. I know what you're talking about. But for people that aren't familiar with that, with shadow work and ego death and all that other stuff, just quick explanation of what ego death means.
It's the set of morals and rules that you live by that society has helped you build, your mom and your dad and people around you giving you bad looks when you do things wrong or say something wrong or whatever, and all that. And then you have that vision of who you are, and then you learn that you could be better, or that who you are right now is bad in relationships, or who you are right now is lazy and can't get anything done. When you realize that the way you've been looking at life is detrimental to your life, and you go and you have to now change that, and now you will, because now you can't unsee what you just learned. It's an ego death. The way you looked at the world is now completely changed.
Yeah, so
the old ego that was protecting you, because that's all our logical mind does is what the emotional part of your mind wants it to do. Always protects the emotional part of your mind, but protection is control. It opposite of love, opposite of growth.
Absolutely. And you actually you took the words out of my mouth, because I was going to be like, to me, and then you literally took the words out of my mouth. It's
a lot of like Buddhist stuff. What I'm talking about. It's like self-realization on like the very, deepest parts of you. Like, there's Gnostic Christians, and they're around the same time as Jesus and all that. And in their minds, they felt you had to have a spiritual connection with yourself first. Then you could have the best relationship with God. But only once you've come to terms with who you are and what you and had that convo with yourself, like you said, got to have that convo with yourself. Only then can you have the true relationship with God.
Right. And that's, and I am along that line of thinking, because how, again, like I said before, how are you ever going to give 100% of yourself to anybody else in your life if you can't even give 100% of yourself to yourself? And that includes God. That includes religion. That includes.
You're not loving yourself. How can you love someone else?
Exactly.
Yeah. That's it. If you're treating yourself badly, you're treat other people badly too.
Exactly. Well, man.
And that goes for anybody looking for a relationship. If you see someone treating themselves badly, well, they're probably going to treat you badly too.
Exactly. So be aware. Man, we can go on forever with this stuff.
Yeah, we'll do it again, man. I'd love to, make a monthly thing out of it if we can.
Dude, man, that would be amazing. Let's work on that. Also, I want to work on seeing if we can get Above It All as the opening and basically the anthem for the What Makes Us Fire
love it, dude.
Podcast.
It would be my honor, bro.
I would love for it to be the opening song to the show, the closing out song to the show, whether it's the first minute or the whole song, whatever. I would love for us to work on something like that, because I truly believe what you guys have came up with and what you created with that song is definitely an anthem for What Makes Us Fire family and what we're trying to do. It's
I'm all
definitely
about
an anthem
passion,
for the
and
nonprofit.
I can see it in your eyes, bro. So let's do this.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you. So What Makes Us Fire family, this is Chris, lead singer of Trap. If you do not know where you can find him on TikTok right now, apparently Facebook's being a little bitch. So right now,
just Trap TikTok, 2 T's in the middle.
Yep, Trap TikTok. Go follow Chris. All our Trap fans out there, give him a follow, become a part of the Trap family. He puts out a lot of demos and new releases, songs that he's working on. He's giving you a backstage look into the process of what his songs and how they come about. He's giving you a backstage look into what's coming up. And not only that, he's also sharing a lot about who he is and what he's going through and how he's learning about himself through all that process, which is huge, which is very, very huge. And I think we need more people like him in this world, not afraid to share who he is, no matter what kind of person he is. He's just a human being trying to share his growth process and what he
does. I'm not afraid to ask you who you are.
And that
in general,
And that is amazing. So go follow Chris.
I can't really help it. I have no control over whether I ask those questions or not. So
hey, and I'm okay with it, man. I'm totally
right on.
Okay
Glad.
So again, What Makes Us Fire family, Trap TikTok on TikTok. Chris, again, thank you so much. Is there anything coming up that you want to go ahead and plug real quick for either yourself or for Trap?
We want to do a 20th anniversary tour next year. And play our first album in its entirety. So we're actively putting that together. Probably start sometime early next year.
Holy dude!
Yeah, it'll be fun, man. We're gonna have a great time with that.
Oh man, my teenage kid will come out and bro,
that's the idea, man.
You gotta let me know. I will be a 37-year-old acting like a damn fucking 16, 17-year-old all over.
Love it. I can't wait. It's gonna be great.
All right. What Makes Us Fire family? Remember, have fun, stay safe, show some love and peace out in the world. You never know who's going to need it. You never know if you're going to be the one to make the difference. Being that difference, it does feel really good. Be the change you want to see in the world. Don't allow the world to dictate how you want to see that change come out. Don't get walked all over. Just be better. I've been saying this a little bit more lately because I'm learning it myself. Nothing in this life worth having is easy. Absolutely nothing in this life worth having is easy. Keep going.
It's true. And you don't know who you are until your back is up against the wall.
Keep going. It's going to be worth it in the end.
Yeah, man.
All right, let me start. Peace.
What did I tell you guys? Chris has some big insight into how he deals with and how he goes about his mental health awareness, how he's growing within himself. You guys heard us talk about shadow work, ego death, These are things that people have been using and talking about to really search within themselves, search within their soul, to find out what it is exactly that drives them to be. And that's it. What drives them to be. It's pretty deep. I recommend you looking into it. And stay tuned. Maybe Chris will come back on and we can actually talk about it a little bit more. But I know you guys are waiting for that song. But first, I want to say thank you to Chris for coming on the show, for sharing his point of view with us, for taking some time out of his day to just hang out with us. I mean, the fact that this guy took the time to come onto the What Makes Us Fire podcast and really just let us know what he thought was pretty damn cool. And the fact that he's allowing us to use their music, Trapt, as the new bump music for the What Makes Us Fire podcast, and really just the anthem for the What Makes Us Fire nonprofit foundation, I cannot be more thankful enough. This is the part of the show where I say thank you for following, thank you for listening. Please follow us on all the social media sites, on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, with the tag at What Makes Us Fire. You could also follow us on YouTube with What Makes Us Fire space podcast. You can email me at whatmakesusfire@yahoo.com if you have any questions, comments, concerns. Please check out whatmakesusfire.com. You all, we are a nonprofit. This podcast is tied to the nonprofit, which means your donations help this podcast grow. It means it helps the foundation grow, and it means that we get closer to actually helping out our civil service members get that inpatient mental health treatment that they need. Visit whatmakesusfire.com where you can make a donation. Check out some events coming up, like the What Makes Us Fire TikTok Riverwalk Takeover in San Antonio, Texas, October 15th through the 17th. You want to learn more about it, go to whatmakesusfire.com, click on that events tab. If you'd like to make a donation, you can make a donation there as well. Every penny helps, y'all. It helps us spread the word. It helps us get off the ground, and it helps us to start saving lives. Period. End of story. That's what it is. If you're finding yourself right now in a place where you just need to talk to somebody right now, you're in a crisis, you're lost, the National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 100% free, anonymous, and confidential. The number is 1-800-273-8255, 1-800-273-8255. Again, start the conversation. Let's get you some help. If making the call, you're just not there yet, please visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org, where you will find a multitude of resources to help you on your path to get to that mental clarity so you can start helping yourself become a better version of you. What Makes Us Fire is not sponsored by the National Suicide Prevention Hotline or suicidepreventionlifeline.org in any way, shape, or form. These are just two avenues, two resources that we do strongly believe in for anybody that is in a crisis now, and that is for anybody, first responder, civil service member, military, veteran, just everybody, general public, everybody. All right. Saying all that, I know I said a lot. What Makes Us Fire family, please open your ears of the song Above It All by one of my favorite bands, Trapt. Enjoy.
Survive this way. Doesn't kill you, gives you strength. You've got your battle scars to play. We're gonna get stronger. We're gonna go farther.